Hey, everybody. Welcome to Wise Guys. It's Monday night. Dave McCann, Blaine Fowler, our live stream hopping right out of the gate. Welcome to the number one BYU Sports Global live stream that you can find anywhere. Presented by Brady Plus and distributed by the Deseret News. Watch for our brand new podcast. It will be out tomorrow, available wherever you can get your podcasts. And we have a loaded, awesome show tonight.
We sure do. And folks are already in on the chat. Mark Actual, first one in. Best night of the week, he says. Paul Lacey's in from Cache Valley saying go Cougs. Earl Carr. Hey, Earl says, hey, Dave and Blaine. He's watching from Davis County. So, and Jess always tells us, hey, family home evening with the Wise Guys from Saratoga Springs. That's their family home evening every week. Ruth's in from Harriman. So everybody in the house, please subscribe to our free email at wiseguys.com, ysguys.com. You can also watch all of our past content, including every interview we've done over the last 2.5 years. We'd also love it if you'd hit that subscribe button on the YouTube channel. That's also free. We're asking you to do a bunch of free stuff. Subscribe on YouTube, subscribe to the weekly email. That'll keep you up to date. And I'm telling you, I even am amazed when I go back and look at that lineup of guests we've had over these first 2.5 years of this show. Yeah. It is an amazing lineup. And if you've missed any of them, you can just click on it and watch the full interview right there on the website. And
what is Vi's favorite saying? Our friend Vi Sikahema?
Yes, Vi Sikahema is saying, if it's free, I'll take it. If it's free, it's for me. And I'll take 3. That's Vi's theory on life. So.
Evan is in the live stream from Laramie, Wyoming. We hope you enjoyed the game the other night, Evan. Northwest Missouri in the house. Seth, good to have you with us. Let's go for 5 continents again tonight.
Yes.
And get everybody in.
What was the 5th one that we added? Was it?
We had Australia.
Yeah, Australia was the 5th.
Asia, right? Yeah. South, Central America.
We have Japan. Corey was in the house last week from Japan, North America, South America.
Yeah, Antarctica is going to be tough, I'll be honest.
Yeah, it's going to be a hard one. Are penguins in Antarctica? I think they are. If we just get a penguin to
We do know Farmington, Utah is in the house. Wise Guys is thrilled to have Brady Plus as our title sponsor. Brady Plus provides cleaning, food service, and packaging equipment, dispensers, and service and repairs with over 150 distribution facilities across the country and over 6,000 employees.
And if you missed the big announcement last week that we made during the show, Wise Guys is now being distributed by the Deseret News and Deseret.com. That's Utah's newspaper since 1850. And you can watch for our content on their social media sites as we serve Cougar Nation all over the world. We're grateful for that partnership with Deseret News.
You bet we are. Gerald is in from Fresno. Dr. Ketch in from Las Vegas. Good to have you guys on the Wise Guys tonight. BYU beats Wyoming over in Laramie. We're going to recap that. We're going to hear from head coach Kalani Sitake, get his take on that and this week's Big 12 opener.
Yes, and Hall of Fame quarterback Gifford Nielsen, he's in the house.
He's already here.
He's in the house right now. He was the starting quarterback the last time Kansas State came to Provo. So Giff will join us with his keys to another win this weekend.
Robert from Ridgecrest, California. Good to see you this week, Robert. The 1996 Cougars are going to be honored on Saturday night during the game as part of the 100 years of BYU football. So that 96 team, Chad Lewis was the tight end. They went 14-1. You know, Steve Sarkisian's kind of busy coaching Texas.
Yeah, otherwise we'd have him on the show.
We thought, hey, let's get Chad. So Chad's going to join us a bit later on and talk about what it means to get the band back together, so to speak, and get back out there in front of the crowd and get at least one more cheer for the 96 team, the winningest single season operation in the history of BYU.
And they're right up there. When we have arguments about the best team ever at BYU, 96 is always in that conversation. The talent level and the season that they had and winning the Cotton Bowl against a really good Kansas State team, by the way. I think it's appropriate to honor them when BYU plays Kansas State.
How about Gary Scheide throwing it down on the show? 74 is the best team ever. He said
it was the best team ever. He came in here and remember,
shaking his head.
They're not the best team ever, right? So this 100 years of football that's being celebrated this year, I wore the shirt in honor of that tonight.
Nice.
But remember, it's the 50-year anniversary of that 74, the first bowl team ever for BYU.
It's the anniversary season.
Yeah, and so they honored them. Gary was in, and along with Larry Carr, who also has done some tremendous things post-football with neuroscience and concussions. So they were in. Now 96 being honored this week. I can't remember which game, but my 84 team's going to be honored.
Right, and then there's a night for the Hall of Famers that they'll be out there.
Such a great season being celebrated. Every home game has something really cool that is being honored. And we're tapping into that as we're bringing folks that are being honored in with us.
John is on the live stream from Harriman, Utah. Some scheduling news. The BYU Baylor start time won't be announced until Sunday. ESPN and Fox have put that and most of the rest of the league on the 6-day notifier. For those of you traveling into Waco, you're just going to have to be patient that they're utilizing that 6-day window right. And we also know how next season is going to begin.
That's right. BYU is going to open next season at home against Portland State on August 30th. Then they're going to host Stanford on September 6th. They'll also play a non-conference road game at East Carolina on September 20th. 4 Big 12 games at home, including Utah, and 5 on the road. So they flip back from year to year. So we do know that.
I like it where we have an August start, so it's another August game. And I love having Stanford at home as opposed to going on the road and playing a P4. Bring them into Lavelle Edwards Stadium. Don't love going to East Carolina.
No, and I hate going to the East Coast. I'm going to say this, though. I would much rather, if I'm going to go on the road, and this is no disrespect to East Carolina, wouldn't you rather go on the road and play East Carolina than go on the road and play SMU? They're not in the same category.
No.
You know, SMU's a Power 4 school in the ACC.
Yeah.
You know, they dominated the American Athletic, 11 wins last year. That's a big win.
Weird things happen on the East Coast, just like weird things happen at Lavelle Edwards Stadium.
So, Lavelle Edwards Stadium at night, good luck, Kansas State.
It's a special place.
They are scary at night at home. They really are.
So they're 23-3 now in night games in their last 26.
Yeah,
that's not just at home. That's at home and away. And the other night.
At night.
Under the lights.
What is it?
I don't know.
At home at night. Like, Kansas State ought to be thinking about that.
When the fire dancers come out.
Because there have been some big-time wins at home at night against ranked opponents. So I think when that time came out, Kalani got a big smile on his face, and the players love playing under the lights with that. It seems like the Rock is just a little extra on a night game.
The Sprite intake takes a different effect.
You get a little bit more Sprite in you, a little more root beer.
A little more root beer.
And then you're a little bit crazy.
A couple of Cougar tails and you're out of your mind. Huntsville, Alabama on the live stream tonight. Modesto, California in with us as well. So the Cougars beat Wyoming 34-14. Jake Retzlaff, 22 of 36. 1 interception on that opening drive, 291 yards, 3 touchdowns. He was the leading rusher, 6 carries for 62. It was a good night for Jake.
Yeah, he played really well, and he made some great plays. The pick he threw was just an underthrown ball. The ones we wanted him to eliminate is those of us that are paying attention to that quarterback spot are the really bad decision throws, which he had a couple the week before. That wasn't a bad decision throw. He had Darius Laster in a position where if he throws it high and outside to the back pylon, he's got a chance to make a play. Just underthrown. I can live with those, right? I think we can all live with those. And for the most part, he took care of the ball.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And he threw to Chase Roberts.
Yeah. I thought he was much better. He had a few throws early that were off the mark, but you know what? He's a young and up-and-comer. I remember Steve Sarkisian as a JC transfer in his first season, and we were going, oh, man. But then his senior season, remember, Jake is a junior as well. Sark was money. So Chase Roberts, we said he needed to be targeted more. He was targeted 8 times. He had 6 receptions for 129 yards. Yes, I like that. Yeah, that's what you do.
Good news. Keelan Marion had a 100-yard kickoff return. Officially, it was actually 102 because he started there. And it was funny because as we sat in the green room with our game day crew watching it, and I wrote an article about it in the paper today, because his previous 4 returns were 24, 17, 12, and 16. So you put your knee down in the end zone, you go to the 25. So the last 4 were that, dating back into the SMU game. And I remember we were sitting there, and I said, I do not, just down it, don't come out.
Yeah.
And then he came out.
You were saying that when we were watching it.
He came out, and he went all the way. And then there's a fun little story in there, a conversation he had with Kalani at halftime. And Keelan's one of the greatest personalities on the entire team. He was on our post-game show, and he's just a happy-go-lucky kid. He was on our show during the summer.
We had Keelan sitting right here, and he just brings energy to every room that he walks into.
Yeah. And
brings
that return,
energy to the field.
I don't care who you were and where you were watching that. That return had everything with okay. Yes. Oh, what a great, I told you he could do it.
So Austin Collie, who returned kicks early in his career at BYU and then returned kicks in the NFL, people forget about that. He said to us after the return, he goes, now he's going to be better. And we said, why? And he said, the light bulb is going to go on. He goes, it takes one return when you catch the ball and you hit the seam without hesitation and you go full speed, for you to realize that the faster downhill you're running, the less chance you have of getting hit hard, and the better chance you have of taking it to the house. Austin says the big hits come when you hesitate and you stop your feet and try to make a move. He said when you're running full speed downhill, the guys on the cover team have to break down to tackle you. And it changes the way they approach you. You're less likely to get hit violently running full speed downhill. And he goes, you know what? Keelan will go watch the film. He will realize it now. It takes that one time when you do it. And he goes, you watch how much better he is moving forward. I thought, okay, wow, that's from somebody that has done that job in the NFL. So I'm going to take that for what it's worth and believe it and hope that we see Keelan Marion much better moving forward.
It gives Kansas State one more thing to worry about.
Exactly.
Daniel from Blaine, Minnesota on the live stream tonight.
Wow, there's a Blaine, Minnesota?
There's a town named after you? That's
Daniel,
fantastic.
that's awesome. There's Blaine, Washington, right before you go into Canada, the last town named after me. Wow, I wonder if the Blaine, Minnesota, is that right on the border too? Because it seems like all the border towns going into Canada,
on the edge.
They name after me.
Everyone I know named Blaine lives on the edge, so perhaps they're on the edge.
It's probably it.
Raider Damuni had 4 solo tackles. It was good to see him.
Yeah, we're watching a star before our eyes bloom at strong safety. Coaching staff knows that too. From a pure physical standpoint, he is very gifted. He is big. He's very fast. He's got great reactions. He's got quick feet. He's very physical. Hasn't been healthy. Now he's been healthy finally for like 4 straight weeks. But as he's learning this defense, he's playing more and more every game. And Raider Damuni has the ability to be a first-team All-Big 12 guy multiple years at that position.
Fantastic. Here is what the head coach, Kalani Sitake, said this afternoon in his news conference to kick off the week with Kansas State coming in on Saturday and on the heels of beating Wyoming this past Saturday. Let's listen to the coach for a moment.
Well, game week again. Glad that we could be sitting here at 3-0, and looking forward to this challenge. Being on the road for the last couple of weeks has been great. That we were able to see our fans on the road, both at Dallas and in Laramie. But really looking forward to being at home for this game. We're opening up conference play against Kansas State. Really, really talented team, and excited about the matchup. Ranked team, and so well coached. Have a lot of respect for that program. I mean, you're looking at the connections between BYU has Lavelle Edwards and Kansas State has Bill Snyder, and so you look at the programs and the history behind both programs. I think it's a really cool story, and I have a lot of respect for Chris Kleiman and what he does as a head coach. He's a good friend. I actually got to know him and his wife Rhonda on the Nike retreat with the coaches, and we got to connect. And I've always known about him as a coach. You've seen what he's done, what he did at North Dakota State. Have tons of respect for what he's doing as a head coach there, and now at Kansas State. And man, just really, really admire his work, and then get to meet him in person. And he is a good person, a great person, and was able to spend some time with him and his wife and with other coaches, but really, really got to connect with him, and looking forward to seeing him because with our friendship. But this is going to be a game, our team against theirs, and but looking forward to the matchup. He has a really good coaching staff that he's hired. Guys like Matt Wells is on his staff, people that I knew from before, and so Wellesley's there, and then you have Mike Tuiasosopo as the D-line coach as well. So. And then they have a great coaching staff. They've done a great job with their team this year, and obviously, especially watching them. I think they played the Friday game last week, so everybody was able to watch them play. And very dangerous team. You look at what they can do as a team overall. I think they play great defense, play great on offense, and they do a great job on special teams as well. So I talked about how well coached they are. They have really good talent too. And so it's going to be a true test for us. They're one of the teams that are favored to win this conference and highly ranked, and so we're looking forward to the matchup. I'm excited about the opportunities that we have, and to see and know more about ourselves and about our program and how much progress we've made. I felt like we've made some great progress throughout this season, and especially from last year, and really looking forward to this game. So It's going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to be at home, and I think it's going to be. I mean, there's a lot of excitement going on, and energy around the uniforms and all that stuff. I just want to get to the game, so I'm looking forward to this week prep and take any questions you guys have for me.
That's head coach Kalani Sitake from earlier today, talking about coming out of Wyoming and getting ready for Kansas State at 3-0. And, of course, game day will be live at LaVell Edwards Stadium Saturday night, 2 hours before kickoff, to cover all of the festivities. Before we get to Kansas State, let's jump quickly through what we liked, what we didn't, and your keys that you rolled out last week for beating the Cowboys. And one thing we liked from Retzlaff is he had 23 targets to Roberts, Lassiter, and Hill combined.
And we talked about that going into the game. So that's, I think you already know we're going to give them a check mark or a plus for getting the ball to playmakers in space, which they did, especially with their top two running backs, and then their third running back getting nicked up early in the game. So only one turnover on offense, that pick early in the game. We liked that. We liked that the Cowboys averaged 2.3 yards a carry. 33 carries for 77 yards.
Yeah.
You hold team under 100 yards and under 3 yards a carry. That's a great defensive effort against the run.
Evan Johnson looked like Deion Sanders, number 21, with 21. That spectacular interception. That defensive secondary is deep. They're playing 6-7 guys, and so they're all getting experience, and BYU has been very tough. They're one of the only few schools left that haven't given up a passing touchdown this season.
Yeah, that back end is good and deep, and I love that they are confident enough that they're trusting these young guys. They're even playing freshmen back there, and not in mop-up in critical times in the game, especially when they know it's not going to be complicated. They'll put those young bucks out there that they know are great in man coverage and have blazing speed, and call man-to-man defense and just say, you the nickel, go take the slot and cover him man-to-man. And guys like Jonathan Cabea and Trey Alexander, like these freshmen, Tommy Prassis at free safety, DeMoody's a sophomore, but they're putting these guys in the game in critical times, and they're trusting them to lock down receivers, and they're doing a great job. Not only is that great for now, but the future is really, really bright in the secondary for BYU.
Our Cougar Board question of the week, we're going to throw it in right here because there's a couple of points we want to make. If you're not familiar with Cougar Board, it's the largest online community of BYU fans, thousands of posts every day. And this question comes from Skal, one of their insider subscribers. What were your impressions of Gary Bohannon based on limited reps he got? If anything were to happen to Jake, how ready is Gary? Also, why did it take so long for coaches to put Gary in? I bring that up because on our What We liked the fact that he got in and he ran the offense a little bit, threw some passes, made his first completion in 700 days back before he hurt his shoulder at South Florida, which was huge. But now let's address that question.
Yeah, I would love to have seen him in a series earlier. I do like that very first series they put him in. For the first half of that series, they left him in with the ones. And anybody that's been a backup quarterback, when you get into a game, especially the first game of the year as a backup, you just hope and pray that they'll send you out there and let you go in there with the ones for a little bit. Yeah. The first line especially, and the receivers, so that you can get a taste of what it's like to be out there with them in case you have to get in a critical time in a game when you're coming off the bench. And so I liked that. And then they brought guys in as that drive progressed. I would have liked to have seen them in the drive before. I agree with that. It just didn't work out because they put a bunch of 3s and 4s in on defense, and Wyoming had a long time consuming drive, remember? And BYU just shut them down. Remember, that last Wyoming drive was 75 yards. Yeah. They were under 200 yards of total offense before that drive. You know what, though? Kalani's philosophy is, no, I need to play these kids. These kids need experience. At this point in the game, I don't care about point spread. I don't care. What I care about is getting guys experience. And I think that cut short a little bit Gary's ability to play more plays. And I do like that they let him throw a couple of balls.
Yeah.
And he looked good. I think he's fine. He got a ton of reps in spring, during the summer. He's a leader on this team. I think if Jake gets hurt, Gary's ready to go. I think they changed the emphasis on the offense a little bit because he's phenomenal in the run game, like quarterback power, quarterback counter, the RPO. I think you would see a little bit more of that, and I think BYU would be fine if he played.
And look, if Jake's going to be allowed to run around like he is in this league, he's going to get knocked out. And so you got to have another guy ready.
Well, and the only reason you let Jake run around like that is because you're confident that your next guy can go.
Yeah.
That you've got two of them.
And Jake has to run around, it seems, to get into his thing.
Doesn't he seem like once he gets knocked around and runs a little bit, does it not seem like he calms down?
Yeah.
Then he just starts to make plays?
We're going to ask Gifford Nielsen if he needed to get knocked around.
I don't think Giff needed to get knocked around. I think Giff came ready on play one.
All right, on our live stream, Camp Verde, Arizona, Drummond, Montana, Chicago, Illinois, Tucson, Arizona, Richfield, Utah, and Beaumont, Texas. Good to have everybody on with us. What we didn't like, there were a lot of missed throws, especially early on, where we were like, hey, those were big, and it was just a matter of setting your feet and throwing.
Yeah, like a hitch screen has got to be like, unless the guy drops it, it just should be an automatic. It should be 98% success rate. You just take the snap and throw it out there like you're playing catch. The receiver's not even moving. You got to complete those. You can't throw that into the ground. I think a little bit of nerves early on, on the road. And once he settled in, then he became much more accurate. But we noted a theme when his accuracy is off, which is only two or three times in that game, maybe 3 or 4 times. It's when his feet are parallel and he's not like standing tall and striding out and keeping his fundamentals sound. When his fundamentals are good and he sets his feet, he's pretty accurate. So we need him to, you can't really think about your feet. That's got to be natural, but you can watch on film and go, oh yeah, I need to remember to stay calm in the pocket and keep my feet calm and stride and do all of that.
And he's going to be jacked up with Kansas State's defense out there in a full house.
In that stadium with it, yeah.
So we'll see what they do to calm him down.
We'd like to see him on the easy throws be a little more accurate early.
Nate from St. George on the live stream. Hey, Nate. 2 of 11 on 3rd down, 3 of 3 on 4th down.
Yeah, so combined, and Aaron looks at it combined, A-Rod, that's 5 of 14, 36%. Against Wyoming, we said last week, we felt against that defense, we would be happy if they were mid-40s. We felt like it should be 45 against Wyoming. So that's a little bit less than I would have liked against that defense.
9 penalties for 80 yards. We didn't like that either.
Nope, didn't like that at all.
So Blaine's 3 keys going into the game to beat Wyoming. So we say a lot of things on this show, and then we like to have some accountability on this show. So it's Giff sitting just a few feet away from us. What Giff says, we'll be revisiting next week.
Oh, yeah. We'll see.
Not to put any undue pressure on that.
And by the way, Giff, this doesn't mean I said they were going to do this. I said this would be a key to success, right?
All right.
That's all we're asking.
Key number 1 was to be disruptive on defense. You wanted 8.5 tackles for loss, 3 sacks or more, and 2 turnovers. What you got were 4 TFLs, 1 sack, and 1 turnover. So that was that.
And so they didn't hit that. That's why they didn't win 45. Right?
Key number 2 is take care of the ball.
I will say they were very stingy, though.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, when you take away the 75 yards on the last drive, I mean, they really shut this Wyoming offense down. So I'm not disappointed in the defense. They just weren't quite as disruptive.
They took care of the ball, just the 1 turnover.
Yeah, 1 turnover. I like to see 0 turnovers, but one is okay, especially if they give up 1.
And then you said feed the talent. Roberts had 8 targets, Lassiter had 9, and Hill had 6.
Yep, there you go. Okay. I'm giving them a check on that.
So those are 2 of 1.
Yeah,
2 and 1 right
2
there.
and 1. That's not too bad.
BYU stats as we sit on this Monday here on Wise Guys.
This is nationally.
They're 4th in pass efficiency defense.
How about that?
13th in total defense, 18th in passing yards allowed per game, and then 39th in total offense. All those numbers are so much better than last year.
They were 100 and something on every offensive category, and they were maybe top 60 in some of the defensive categories. And we knew they'd take a leap forward on defense, but that's a monster leap on offense. And keep in mind, they played SMU on the road 2 weeks ago. SMU was on a home winning streak where they were averaging 53 points a game and almost 500 yards of total offense. Yeah. And they had 9 returning starters. What they did at SMU, I expected them to shut Wyoming down. What they did at SMU was really impressive on the road.
Really curious to see what SMU does against TCU this week.
Because TCU's very good defensively, so let's see what happens.
Here comes Kansas State. They're number 13 in the new poll. They're 3-0. Beat number 20 Arizona Friday night, 31-7.
They look good.
I was surprised at that final score. I thought Arizona would put up more of a fight.
Arizona's been one of the most, and they're ranked still, but I think everybody thought they'd compete for a league title. They're struggling with the physicality. Yeah. Like they struggle with Kansas State's physicality. And keep in mind, the Pac-12, hate to say it, Utah fans, it's not a physical league, and it hasn't been. Utah's dominated that league because they just out-physical everybody. It's a skill league. Lots of great skill players, NFL skill players, but not real physical, not from week to week. There's a couple of physical teams. Washington was. Oregon State was last year. Utah always is. Stanford in their heyday was, but they've fallen off.
Yeah.
Every team in the Big 12 is physical. Period.
It's going to be different.
Even the bad teams will knock you around. And Arizona really struggled with Kansas State's physicality.
You know, and Utah played Baylor in a non-conference game, and their starting quarterback didn't even make it to halftime without being out with some kind of injury. It just happens, and these are different kind of teams.
Utah's used to handing the ball off and just gaping holes, and Baylor's picked to be in the bottom of the league. And Baylor, they didn't push Baylor around.
No.
And that's this league. It's like maybe you don't have this crazy, like Washington was a couple years, really, really high level, or USC with the talent they have. But there's so many good teams. There's so much more parity, and all of these teams play a physical brand of football.
What Kansas State does have is they've got Avery Johnson at quarterback, and he's legit. He can throw, he can run. He ran for 110 yards against Arizona, one of the difference makers in that game. He's thrown for 6 touchdowns and 1 pick. He is their offense.
He is very good, and he has BYU's attention. You remember the difference between BYU's defense in the first game when those guys hadn't shown really quarterback run game, and BYU didn't have a plan for it, and they just decided they're not going to hurt us with that. They had a plan against SMU because SMU's quarterbacks are more similar to Kansas State's quarterback, Avery Johnson, where they're involved heavily in the run game, and BYU did a great job. So they're aware of him. I expect them to have a really good plan for him, but he is better than SMU's quarterbacks.
Yeah.
He is so good in the run game. He's a solid passer. He's the second leading rusher in terms of attempts. He averages 6.7 yards a carry. And they have a lot of design. They design a lot of stuff, not so much RPO stuff, but they do a lot of like quarterback counter, quarterback power. Like they just snap him the ball and he just runs it. So you got to be ready for quarterback run game. 28 carries for him. That's the next highest person on the team with carries is 15. So it's DJ Giddens, their great running back, who we're going to talk about.
He's averaging 6.6 yards a carry.
And so to give you an idea, he's got 49 carries. He averages 108 yards a game. He's averaging over 100 yards a game. And then next is Avery Johnson at 28. Next guy on the team has 15. So their run game is all about DJ Giddens and Avery Johnson, and they're both really, really skilled.
John from Allen, Texas is on the live stream. He said, I was at the Cotton Bowl in 97. BYU beat Kansas State in that game. Do you think they can do it again on Saturday night? Hey, why not?
Absolutely.
Why not?
Yeah.
Alpine, Utah, also on the stream tonight. It is hopping. If you're listening, jump on there. Let us know where you're taking this in from as we span the globe. Kansas State, as we sit tonight, they're 21st in run defense. They're 92nd in pass efficiency defense. So they've given up a bunch of points. They needed a fumble return to beat Tulane on the road 2 weeks ago, and then they routed UT Martin out of the gate. But Las Vegas has them favored by 6.
Which, if you think about it, this is a highly ranked team. I feel like Kansas State's been the most consistent team in the Big 12 over the last 5 years, where they're just always right there near the top. Remember, they won the championship they won the championship game a couple of years ago when TCU went.
They're good. They're good.
Yeah, they have been consistently good. It's because they're very physical and aggressive defensively. And then offensively, they're dynamic. They have this great balance between run and pass, and they spread you out, and they're physical up front there too. This is a very good football team. And the one thing Tulane did was they got him with a bunch of quick pass game. And I loved that in last week's game, unlike the first 2 games, BYU came out and they established the quick pass game early. And that gave Wyoming some problems. I think you need to do the same thing, especially if you don't have L.J. Martin or Hinckley or Potty back. Against this Kansas State defense, you may just say, and back in the day when Giff was playing and I was playing after Giff, there would be times when we just go, we don't really even care if we're going to run this game. Let's just throw it 55 times. This may be one of those games.
It might be. It's going to be exciting. As you prepare your 3 keys for Kansas State, and Gifford Nielsen's going to join us here in just a couple of minutes. The weather forecast for Saturday, dark. It's going to be dark at 8:30. That's a good sign for BYU. The low temperature for the night's 49, so it'll be nice and cool. Perfect football weather under the lights. The uniforms are going to be the 1996 throwback jerseys, the same unis only upgraded with better material, but the same unis they wore in the Cotton Bowl that year. White with the royal trim.
And then don't they have like black shadow on?
There's some black on there too.
It
It's
looks
going to be
good.
awesome.
It's sharp. So.
Chad Lewis will tell us all about those. The series is tied 4-4, BYU and Kansas State. The Cougars are 0-4 in Manhattan. The Wildcats are 0-3 in Provo and 0-1 in Dallas. The last meeting in Provo, September 10th, 1977, BYU won 39-0. Do you know who the quarterback was in that game?
I know who it was. I even know what his numbers were.
He is our first guest tonight, and we'll bring him in just a sec. 3 keys to beating the Wildcats.
Yeah.
What are they? And we've got to document them.
So the first thing is, and I just mentioned it, so I gave it away. Establish the quick pass game early on offense. So let Jake Retzlaff get into a rhythm with some quick throws that are easy throws and make that really physical Kansas State defense run to the sideline, run to the other side. Even if the throw is a 4-yard gain on first down, they still have to run that defense over to the sideline. Then you throw them to the other sideline, they got to run over there.
Okay.
You may be able to run the ball later on if you can establish that quick throw game early. And then Kansas State is so aggressive. If you complete some balls underneath, they start to creep up. They start to play tighter. They start to try to jump things. Then you can get some balls over the top. So quick pass game early.
Okay.
Second thing is you must account for the quarterback at all times. In the run game, you've got to understand that he's a vital part of the run game. He's got to be part of the key to stop. In the pass game, you've got to stay in rush lanes because he'll take off and hurt you with his feet. So account for the quarterback on every play. And when you arrive at the quarterback, you can't just lunge at this guy and try to have a knockout hit. You got to break down and make a tackle because he makes people miss. So don't get anxious when you get there. You don't have to knock his head off.
No.
You just need to keep him contained. And then the last thing is win the turnover battle. You got to win the turnover margin battle if you're going to beat Kansas State. I'm okay if we're just +1. +1 or better, to me, translates to a win for BYU. Those are my 3 keys.
Okay, those are awesome. Vernal, Utah, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and Denver, Colorado hopping in on the stream tonight. It feels like everyone's checking in.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
It's moving.
I love when Coeur d'Alene's in the house because that's such a beautiful place.
Yeah.
That golf course up there with
to
a
have.
floating green. I have dreams of making a hole-in-one on that one. So
Hey, Tuesday night on After Further Review, we'll break down the Wyoming game. We'll show you what worked, what didn't. We'll also take an early look at Kansas State. AFR streams at 5 Mountain Time on the BYU TV app and ESPN+. It'll remain there so you can watch it as many times as you'd like. Saturday night on game day, we'll kick off 2 hours of pregame coverage starting at 6:30 Mountain Time. As I speak, Phoenix is on the stream tonight. West Phoenix. Good to have you guys with us. We'll be live in Cougar Canyon, just outside Lavelle Edwards Stadium. And then we'll move into the stadium from our broadcast perch and show all the warm-ups. That starts at 6:30. Kickoff is at 8:30 on ESPN. The live postgame show back on BYU TV as soon as it's over. Our first guest tonight, we've been waiting 2.5 years for this moment, is BYU's first Hall of Fame quarterback, inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame in 1994. He quarterbacked the Cougars in the mid-'70s before playing 6 seasons in the NFL for the Houston Oilers. Just finished his assignment as a General Authority 70 for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Spent the last 2 years overseeing the church's growth in West Africa. He's here with us tonight. It's our pleasure to welcome Gifford Nielsen to the Wise Guys. Welcome.
Thank you, Dale. Thank you, Blaine. It's good to be with you.
What do you think of the place?
This is remarkable. I can see why you guys are having so much fun here.
So when we talked earlier today, you said, are you guys in a house? I go, trust me, when you come in, you'll go, hey, this is a pretty cool setup.
This is a really cool setup. I think it might be the nicest basement I've ever been in.
yeah, and so it's and we always tell people, for security reasons, that it's in an undisclosed location.
We don't
Provo.
need the police involved.
People start to give it away. It's like up on a hill. We're like, guys, hey, no, don't. We work in beautiful studios all the time, but this show's whole theme is it's casual. It's just folks talking. Trying to find people doing good things in the world. It's about sports. It's about entertainment. It's about, and this atmosphere makes it feel like we're just in somebody's house having a visit.
I'm not going to tell anybody that I'm in West Provo.
What? Okay, good.
In your previous life, you were a broadcaster, a play-by-play guy, understand the game through and through, and the fact that you played it. We have so many questions for you. But let's just start with your reaction to the Wyoming game back on Saturday night. What did you think?
Well, let me start by saying this. Early on in a season, you just want to win.
Yeah.
You just have to win. And it doesn't matter how you get those wins, you just have to win, and that gains confidence in a team. So, when I watched the first game and I watched the second game offensively was not a pretty game.
Right.
And so Jake is trying to find himself as a quarterback. And then you go into the Wyoming game and you play a pretty consistent game all the way through. But you just keep winning and gaining confidence. When you're a quarterback and you start to see some of these plays develop, you start to figure out in your mind, hey, listen, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. And I think just winning right now, I think Kalani and the coaching staff have done just a tremendous job in instilling this winning attitude with this team. It feels like that they can go and compete against anyone right now, especially defensively, still finding themselves offensively. And that's going to be up to Jake just to control his emotions and make sure that he's making the right reads and getting the ball to the right people.
You remember being a first-time starter out there at this level and how it looks. I've told people about my first game against first time I got in was against San Diego State, and like I dropped back and I just ran because everything like just looked like a blur downfield. It was like, this isn't like practice. And I went to the sidelines and Holmgren goes, "What did you see?" And I went, and he goes, "Oh yeah, you'll be fine. I'll be all right." Like I just felt like everything. Do you remember those days?
Oh yeah.
And then second to that, you mentioned Jake will say, "I can do this, I can do this." Is he also learning, but I can't do this and I can't do that?
Oh, no question about that, Blaine. You know that as well as anyone. You go out on the field and you figure out what plays you can go with and what plays you can't go with. You start to gain confidence with those plays. I can remember Doug Scoville would always come in and look at me and say, "Okay, what do you feel comfortable running?" He would ask me that. Yeah. And I would say, "Okay, I feel comfortable here. I feel comfortable with Cronister here. I feel comfortable with George Harris going here. Brian Billick can get open. Todd Thompson can get open. I feel comfortable with those plays." And so he would devise and design his offense against opposing defenses on what you feel comfortable doing. So I think that's the mark of a great coach. And I think, sometimes when an offense gets bogged down, the offensive coordinator can do a lot. So Aaron Roderick can do a lot to help Jake get comfortable very fast. It's not too often in a BYU offense, and I don't know all the stats, and I don't know all the names. So you're going to have
to. That's all right.
Yeah,
you're doing good.
But you watch it.
I've been in Africa for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But I did watch the SMU game, and I was thinking, okay, Aaron, what have you got to help Jake right now? What have you got for him? Because BYU does not come in and go 3 out 3 or 4 or 5 straight times.
Right.
Especially when the defense is playing so well and giving you field position. They're giving you opportunities to score. At least you're going to get 3 points. What have you got in your offense that can really develop a nice, comfortable, and confident throw for a quarterback? I was watching very carefully in the first game, and I was just watching Jake, and it seemed like he was standing like a statue and throwing the ball. And he has got a very nice arm. Mm-hmm. He can throw it. He threw that ball. Blaine, how many times do you throw a ball 65 yards in the air for a completion and a touchdown? You don't
hardly
usually
ever,
do that.
right?
It's like 47 yards, 48 and a half yards. If you're Ken Stabler, it's 48 and a half yards.
Exactly.
Right? And that thing is thrown perfectly on time, and that's what we always used to drill on. But to just drop back and just look around and then just throw it 60 to 65 yards and put it right on the money shows you what kind of an arm he's got, right? Yeah. So he's got that. Sometimes what I see with him is kind of a lack of confidence. It's a lack of his feet being in the right place to deliver the ball. Mm-hmm. If he'll stand confidently in the pocket, this kid is good.
Yeah.
He can make plays on the run. I mean, I was very impressed against Wyoming, his presence in the pocket, because a couple of times he stood up, move to his left, move to his right, and then put it right on the money. So he's got the ability to be a very nice quarterback. In fact, he's playing very well right now.
I was going to say, our old Doug Scoville recruited me, coached you. He always used to say, quarterbacks are built from the ground up. What does he mean by that?
No question, your feet. Not too many people know this, but before I ever got to touch a football at practice, he filmed my feet. Wow. He filmed my feet for 15 minutes every day, and I had to go through every possession. I had to go through every running play. I had to go through every drop. And then the next day, I would be in his office, and he'd go, "Why are you doing a false step here? Why aren't you getting back away from the center fast enough? Why aren't you doing this?" This was just fundamental football.
Why are you throwing with your feet parallel?
He would not let me touch this football right here until we went through 15 minutes of drills on my feet. And so he would take me in there and he would show me some video of some quarterbacks that would take a false step. And he said, those defensive linemen are just looking at your feet. And so they have the advantage. If you move your feet first in a false step, they're gone. You're gone. You just lost the advantage.
They know that's a pass play, and they're coming.
So when you bring that up, fundamentally, Doug Scoville was so strong on fundamentals, making sure that we knew our feet were in the right place before we even threw the ball. We never had to worry about our feet in the game.
How about that? Very interesting.
And Doug's the first person I've ever heard that. Hey, quarterbacks are built from the ground up. Your feet are important. And
Brandon Doman was talking about that a couple weeks ago.
Brandon talked about it, his footwork as well. It's fundamental, and anybody that's played the position knows that if you're going to be good, you drill that in. And that's, to me, Jake, if he can master that, he can be really good.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Jake has got all the abilities to be an excellent quarterback. He's an excellent quarterback right now. I think everybody needs to take a nervous pill.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I think it's so critical of him right now.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a growing and developing young quarterback that has not had a whole lot of experience. I was in West Africa last year, but I saw some of the video and I read some of the reports, and he got put into a really tough situation. When you're a quarterback in the BYU offense and you're forced to throw and you can't run, and you're playing against these teams, you got up here on the board here, you're dead. You're dead. And you almost beat Oklahoma, and you almost beat Oklahoma State. And so he is still a young quarterback and still learning, but he's got a lot of ability to be a very effective quarterback, very good quarterback.
Redondo Beach is on the live stream tonight. Torrance, California. Good to have everybody with us. Greg writes in, Gifford was the reason my number was always 14 growing up. We've heard that.
Number 14 in your program
spots.
and number 1 in your heart. Is that what they used to say?
Former Cougar quarterback Gifford Nielsen on the Wise Guys, presented by Brady Plus, distributed by the Deseret News. Do you ever feel bad for these young quarterbacks? They are in this. They're part of this legacy that goes back so far to guys who were so good. They're in the Hall of Fame. They played in the NFL, and you got a guy like Jake trying to find his way, but he's at BYU, and the pressure to be a BYU quarterback is partly because of you, partly because of Gary, partly because of Jim and Steve, and on and on. Do you sometimes feel bad for these young guys?
No, not at all. Absolutely not at all. Because if you're a BYU quarterback, you know what you're playing. You know the situation.
You came here for it, right?
You came here to play in big games and be a big-time player. And so I really don't feel bad for them. I say go work harder, go watch more film, do whatever you have to do to do it during your time. It's like, this is our time.
That's
okay,
right.
I am here. I've been recruited here. What an honor to be recruited as a BYU quarterback. And so, in fact, I stopped by the quarterback room last week. I have not even been in that quarterback room. And so I looked at all of the quarterbacks, and I said, what an honor it is to be here.
Yeah.
This is amazing. You're all great-looking kids, and I haven't seen them personally.
There's some big, strong guys,
they are
right?
Big, strong guys. And I just thought, and I told him this. I said, I just want you to know, and Aaron was there, and Aaron Roderick was there, and I said, I just want you to know that, my backup quarterback was the number 1 pick of the Oakland Raiders. And
that's right.
Mark Wilson.
Yeah, that's right.
So how did I have to approach practice every day? My second string quarterback was the number 1 pick of the Chicago Bears. And so
all in the same quarterback room.
So the competition in our quarterback room when I was playing were a bunch of NFL quarterbacks. And so when you're a recruited quarterback at BYU and you actually come here, there is a lot expected. But you know what? It's like we teach the missionaries all the time. High expectations, high love. It's what we teach them.
Yeah.
High expectations. You didn't come to be a missionary to not be a very good missionary, right? So you didn't come to BYU to be just an average football player. You came here to represent Brigham Young University in a high-level, high-intensity situation. And what is more fun for an athlete to go to Lavelle Edwards Stadium at night at 8 o'clock and have the whole place rocking, and it's an experience.
Yeah.
Total experience.
It is, and you got to enjoy it while you're there. How different is today's quarterback
Excuse
in
me,
college?
let me go on the other side. And then you got to love them. Doug Scoville loved me.
Oh, yeah.
And I loved him. He was hard on me. He was tough.
But you can be hard if you know, if the player knows that you love him, you can be hard, right?
He would say to me, "Why did you throw it there?" I'm sorry. I saw the free safety go in there, and I saw the will line. I should have been going this side. Don't ever do that again. Don't ever do that again. And it was like that. So we would go into those film rooms after I watched my feet for about 15 or 20 minutes, watched every drop, and then he would say, "What are you doing? We're going to watch some film. Why are you throwing here? Why do you throw here? You saw the free safety. He rotated that way. You got to come back to the strong side. You got to do this. You got to do this." And so it was like total drilling, right, of everything that I did. But I knew that the guy loved me.
Yeah.
I knew that he cared for me. I knew that I was playing for Doug Scoville. I was playing for the guy who coached Roger Staubach to the Heisman Trophy. And
think about the quarterback coaches that have been here.
Well,
My
I mean,
goodness.
you can make a case for this, Blaine. And I always try to get Lavelle to write this book. Tried to get this.
Yeah.
I said, you can make a case for what we are seeing in college football today offensively in the passing game and in pro football to 1976 at BYU. Doug Scoville had the West Coast offense.
It was the West Coast offense.
It was not named the West Coast offense, and he came in to, well, the story goes is Lavelle talked to Bill Walsh, and Bill Walsh says, if you want to throw the ball, get Doug Scoville. He just got fired as the wide receiver coach for the San Francisco 49ers. He's got the offense that everybody wants. But you'll never get him because BYU doesn't pay anything.
Right.
That was Lavelle's genius. Lavelle convinced somehow Doug Scoville to come in here and bring the West Coast offense, and then you just think of, well, you look at what Norm Chow did.
Oh, my goodness. Well, with Norm and Mike Holmgren and Andy Reid here as a GA with quarterback. I mean, and on and on and
then
on.
just look at the passing. Look at the genealogical passing tree with all of those coaches, and you'll see Gary Kubiak. I mean,
it goes on and on.
It goes on and on.
It was interesting in the NFL game Sunday with the Chiefs. Jim Nantz, who was a friend of Andy Reid's and, of course, worked here in Utah a long, long time ago, was talking about it right in the middle of the game of the offense, and then there was a picture of Andy Reid, and then he was talking about Lavelle and that tree of offensive knowledge that just seemed to pour out into so many different folks, and Andy Reid's continuing it.
Yeah, and Andy's doing such a great job. And look at all of the coaches that he's influenced.
Yeah.
And where they are right now and what they're doing.
And your tight end was with the Ravens and had toughness about him, but also threw the football there.
Not very much. He won a Super Bowl. The great Brian Billett, the great offense.
They won it on defense.
They won it on defense. But, you bring up this, Mike Leach. The first time I ever met Mike Leach, he was down in Houston. He came down for a bowl game, and I walked into a room, and he just locked on to me. And I'd never met him before. And he just followed me around. And my cameraman, I was doing television at the time, the cameraman said, "What have you got with Mike Leach?
Who's this guy?
Who is it?" And then I came over to him, and he goes, "You're the great Gifford Nielsen." And I went, "Excuse me?" And he goes, "I've seen every play you've ever run."
Yeah.
And I said, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "I used to hide in the bushes when I was at BYU and watch Doug Scoville coach you. Every play you've ever run, I've watched."
Wow.
And he said, the only thing I did, I couldn't compete with Texas and Texas A&M and how big they were. So I just took the BYU offense and I just took one of the running backs and put him in the slot. And then we just started to stretch the field.
Air raid is just a little bit of a tweak to the West Coast offense of what BYU ran back in those days.
Fantastic. San Diego is on the live stream tonight. San Diego, we hope you're doing well. Thanks for being with us. There are 7 Cougars in the College Football Hall of Fame, starting with you in 1994. Your nickname was the Mormon Rifle back in the day. What was that time like for you? I know you were playing basketball and you were playing football, but
now because of President Nelson, it's the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Latter-day Saint rifle doesn't sound the same.
It doesn't roll off the tongue.
It goes right around your head. So, it was magical. I mean, how you can take a guy that was actually playing basketball. I was playing basketball, and then Scoville comes in, and at that time we had an advantage. I will just say that we had an advantage because everybody was running the veer, everybody was running the wishbone, except for Stanford and Washington State, with the throw-in Samoan, Jack Thompson. So they hadn't really seen what we were doing. But Doug always had the philosophy, whatever they do, it's wrong. And so...
Because we'll take advantage. Whatever they do, we'll take advantage of what they're doing.
If your reads are right, whatever they do defensively, they are wrong.
And he always used to say this, and tell me if you remember this, and if it's true. if we prepare right in practice, when we get in the games, it'll be so much easier in the game.
It is.
Is that how it felt to you?
Yeah, because you're all amped up and you're ready to play and you're having a great time. But he always used to say, I came here to light up the scoreboard. I came here to light up the scoreboard. So I can remember, we were in these huddles.
What quarterback doesn't love a coach that thinks that way?
Yeah, exactly right. So we would get in the huddle, and I had Todd Christensen, who was one of the most talented kids, teammates I've ever had. I had Todd Christensen and Brian Billick in the same huddle.
Yeah.
Think about
and Todd
what
was
happened.
playing fullback for you, but fullback coming out of the backfield and catching balls all over the place, right?
All over the place.
And then the Raiders made him a tight end.
And then
the NFL, right?
Raiders made him a tight end because he was so athletic and he was so good. He was so strong and he was just a tough kid.
His nickname was the Mormon Rifle. Todd's was Toddzilla.
Yeah, Toddzilla.
At the Raiders, he was that strong.
Nice.
So.
Well, how different is today's college quarterback from when you played? Is it
the quarterbacks today, they're just getting bigger and they're getting stronger. Look at when we played, Blaine, I don't know, Jim kind of broke the mold, and I think you were with Jim.
Yeah.
We never lifted. Doug would never let us lift a weight. We always pulled exergenies. So we had exergenies on our doors in our apartments, and we were just pulling, just trying to strengthen our arms and everything. And then
Jim came and Jim was who I was there with, and Steve, and Jim's like, no, I'm lifting, because he just liked it.
Yeah.
And then he'd go in there with Brandon Flint and Chucky and these guys and say, let's lift with a D lineman.
Yeah.
And Doug was gone, by that point. And Ted Tollner was the coordinator or the quarterbacks coach for a year, and then Mike Holmgren came in the next year and was there for the next 4. And Ted's like, yeah, whatever. If you keep throwing it the way you're throwing it, you can do whatever you want, Jim, right?
Yeah.
And so he was like, we got to build up our triceps. Triceps are what's going to help you throw. And Jim would just do all kinds of tricep presses and stuff. So honestly, Jim's the guy that got me hooked on it. And Steve followed suit, and Steve lifted. And so we all lifted. And that was the change over time where quarterbacks started to get bigger and stronger.
Yeah. So Dale, to answer your question, though, what's the difference today? What about quarterbacks today? In a quarterback today, you've got to be able to throw it. You've got to be able to read a defense, and you've got to be able to throw it. But in today's game, you've got a lot more running quarterbacks. So it's a dual threat quarterback.
Yeah.
I was not a dual threat quarterback. Mark Wilson wasn't a dual threat quarterback. McMahon wasn't a dual threat quarterback. He could run.
Yeah.
Steve came in as a runner
right.
and then developed as a passer. Robbie was a
drop back guy.
Ty was a drop back guy. And so Sarkisian was a drop back guy. Yeah. John Beck was a drop back guy. So when you come to BYU, you got to be able to read a defense, and you've got to be able to throw it.
Get the ball out on time to the right people.
So, you're talking about Avery Johnson.
Yeah.
I haven't seen a whole lot of Avery Johnson, but if you got a quarterback that's running 110 yards a game or whatever he's doing, whatever he did last week, that's a little bit different defensive game plan.
Yeah, and he's not it's not, protection's broken down, I'm running. It's like they snap it to him and run a quarterback power. Like they actually have him have called run plays, not even option plays. He's just running the ball.
Yeah.
And then if you don't stay in your rush lanes, he'll take off and kill you in the pass game. He's a crazy, athletic, big, strong guy. But they can also throw the ball down the field. And he's kind of the new wave, especially in college.
Yeah.
Still in the pros, you just got to be able to throw it.
Yeah.
Because you get killed in the pros if you're running around like that.
And look at you don't do that in pro football.
In the NFL, you just get killed.
Because you got little missiles coming at you.
Yeah.
And those little missiles are not fun to...
No, I can't imagine.
Right. You got to have somebody intercept those missiles. Not with the ball. Low.
They had to tone Steve down in the NFL.
Yeah.
Like in San Francisco, especially
But look how many...
We love you to be able to run, but you're going to get killed if you keep doing this.
Yeah, so look at how many concussions Steve has had.
Right.
And we've talked about that a lot. If you take off and start running in the NFL,
you get hit.
Yeah, you're going to get hit, and it's going to be bad.
Former BYU and NFL quarterback, emeritus general authority for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Gifford Nielsen on the Wise Guys tonight. We're live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and wiseguys.com. Emeritus general authority. What is that? What is this new life that you've now graduated to?
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure it out. It's really been an amazing 13 years, I guess 11 years, but 13 years, 14 years since being
full-time church service.
But it's been actually 11 years, and you just go wherever the Lord sends you through apostles and prophets, and to be there to work with them and to bring joy and happiness and light to a people, and it's full-time, and you're always on. and you're supposed to be the answer to everyone's problems, and you bear witness of what you know about the Savior and everything like that. So
Is that hard
no, it's just an honor.
to be on all the time?
It's not. You know why? And I've told Patty this a lot. I think I was programmed kind of to do it because of you have to be on as a BYU quarterback.
Yeah.
You can't ever be off.
Was Brother Johnson sending you out in those days too?
Every Sunday night.
Yeah.
Every Sunday night.
Yeah.
I've gone all throughout the Internet Mountain area doing firesides, devotionals now, and
I was at one of those when I was 8.
yeah. Oh, you were?
Yeah.
He's younger than us.
And it was awesome, but I was there. I remember that.
So you're kind of always on, and you have to know know what you're doing. But it was a miraculous experience. Just going all over the country, go all over the country
world.
here, and then in Africa, and also in the Pacific area.
Yeah, we saw you right when you got home, just maybe a couple of days. We saw you in the parking lot over at the golf course, and you still do, but you had this glow about you, and we asked you about West Africa. You sort of the last 2 years in the area presidency over there, and you just got this huge smile on your face, and you just said, "Hey, the people over there, we're all together. They're part of us." So what was the most meaningful experience while you were over there?
Well, so many, because it just goes to show you that it doesn't really matter what language you speak, what color your skin is. It doesn't matter where you grew up, or you just come together. You're all together as one, just moving the work forward and lifting people and helping people. And so you just see miracles every day. In fact, my African brothers and sisters taught me more about life than anything I've ever learned, even football, because they have to battle every day. Those African brothers and sisters, they love Jesus. They love their family. They have to battle every day. They are so smart. They're so spiritual. They're so humble. And they teach you what the most important things in life really are. And so I was told that. I was told that by many of our leaders, that I would change as Wendy and I served in West Africa, and we did in a significant way. So it was one of the most remarkable experiences anybody could ever have.
As you were down there for 2 years, outside of your family, what did you and Wendy miss the most? An American cheeseburger, a pizza, or a milkshake?
Well, actually, you can't really get a milkshake there. You can get pizza there.
Oh, you can get pizza?
Pizza's pretty much everywhere, right?
Yeah, you can get a pizza there. There are some Lebanese restaurants that are pretty good, and you can get a hamburger there, but that's not really the
thing.
Not the hamburger you get here.
Yeah.
So you miss family, you miss friends,
Sure.
I miss sporting events.
Yeah.
Although we had a chance to watch them, or we could see some delayed plays and different things like that.
Right.
So I kept in tune with kind of what's going on around here and with our teams, and very very impressed once again with what's going on here. The football program, I think with Kalani right now, I think he is getting this. He has to understand that he's now in the Big 12. You have to win up front. You have to win offensive. You have to win in the pit on the offensive line and defensive line. You have to control things. And then I think we're getting better, just overall better, more athletic players.
Yeah, it's interesting because the missionary program has to be part of what BYU's doing because they're recruiting the top LDS athletes in the country. I'm trying to remember, the assistant executive director of the church missionary department. So tight end Reiner Swanson. Maybe the top tight end recruit in the country comes in this last year. We'd be seeing more of him if he didn't have a high ankle sprain all through fall camp. We saw him on a play 2 weeks ago, catch the ball and just truck. They bring him in thinking, this is an NFL draft pick tight end. He's the body type, he's the speed, he's a freak, and he's going to be great. So he's here 1 year, and now he just got his call to Nairobi, Africa.
Oh my goodness! Is he going to Nairobi?
He's going to Nairobi, Africa on his mission. So he gets this mission call. I met his folks the day he got his call. They were excited for that call to come. This is what Kalani deals with. He's got to manage that. But describe this process of how missionary assignments are determined and what impressed you the most about that whole process. Because here he is, and I'm saying, send him to Alabama so that he can stay big and strong, and he's going to Nairobi.
Big 6'5" blonde kid.
He looks like Sunshine from Remember the Titans.
You are called by the Lord through his apostles and prophets. And I've been in the room when that has happened. I was in with Elder Cook one time when Elder Cook was given the assignment to assign 321 missionaries. And it was, the only thing you can say is divine revelation. And kind of hard to describe it, but he's going exactly where the Lord wants him to go. You know, we do have an advantage because if you send a young man on a mission, and we're getting a lot better at that. When I was playing, it wasn't easy, but we have a lot of our athletes coming back off missions. They're not scared of anything. When you go to Nairobi, when he comes back from Nairobi, he's going to be lined up against a guy, and he's going to go, you haven't experienced what I've experienced. I'm going to win this battle. And that's the way it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the Lord sending his missionaries throughout the world to proclaim the gospel, to find out a little bit more about themselves, but more importantly, to have their own witness strengthened of Jesus Christ and his gospel, just adds to everything there is about a player or about a person. And so I wholeheartedly support it. And now you can go out, and it seems like, Blaine, and I think, Dale, you've seen the same thing, you can come back and get back your skills very quickly. It's proven. You can come back and be an unbelievable player. And if your aspiration is to go to another level, you can go to another level.
It's interesting that sometimes, like, nobody could break the 4-minute barrier in the mile until Roger Bannister did it. And then everybody did it, right? And I think at the position that you and I played at quarterback, the prevailing thought was, well, it's just too much skill required. You have to play from the time you're little. And if we send these kids out for 2 years, they'll never come back and do it. Then Brandon Doman went out, and he came back, and he was first team all-conference, and he played in the NFL with the San Francisco 49ers. And then it was like, oh,
you can do it.
You can do this.
Yeah, you can do it.
And now it's happened.
Hey, the women's soccer team, just about everyone on the team's returned missionary.
Who would think that, right?
And when they go up against an opponent, I can promise you, during a game, they're going to say, I've done something harder than I'm doing right now.
That's a great point.
In every sport. So somebody...
And more meaningful.
Kids had to pave the way. There had to be, pioneers in that area. Now, in every sport at BYU, these pioneers have gone out and done it, women's and men's. And it's...
Yeah, I mean,
you can do it.
I mean, you're looking
and
at
you can be better.
You're looking at, and I don't know all the stories, and you do, but the BYU track team, they're winning national championships with return missionaries, aren't they?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And the volley. I mean,
we have Olympians winning silver medals that are return missionaries, right?
So you can do it. I mean, it's all about your mind and getting your mind and your heart right, and so I bless them. And and the coaches have to deal with this.
Sure.
The coaches have to deal with
it's
it.
It's such a hard thing to keep track of.
But look at what they're dealing with in athletics right now with NIL and also with the transfer portal. You're going to have a player 1 year, and then he's going to be gone, and then you're going to have to replace him. And so it's kind of like everybody else is going through what BYU's had to go through for many years.
We should be well-schooled in balancing this. We're visiting with Gifford Nielsen on the Wise Guys. Not only is he former BYU quarterback who threw for over 5,500 yards and 51 touchdowns, he also played basketball at BYU for a couple of years and is with us here tonight. So let's get to a few of the really good stuff here, and then we'll hit 5 questions. Chad Lewis is coming up here in just a bit, talk about the big weekend ahead for the 96 football team. But in all these church assignments all over the world that you've gone, how often do you think was it mentioned that you played quarterback at BYU?
Not very many times.
Really?
Really. It didn't, and I didn't really bring it up.
Well, yeah, I know you wouldn't, but it seems like everyone else would.
But I can tell you that back when you were a young man, Dale, and you went to a devotional or something like that, it was all about that.
Yeah.
But I just really didn't do it a whole lot. I just kind of focused on teaching what would bring joy and happiness to people. And my athletic career, I didn't think was that topic that would do that. Although I have to say that there were times when I would throw in a story. In fact, in general conference, I did it a couple of times.
Right.
I did it more in general conference than I did it on a weekend.
Really?
Yeah. And I don't know, somehow the inspiration comes when you're giving a talk in general conference, and it just kind of came.
But did you get the feeling that everybody knew you had played quarterback at BYU?
No, but there were times when, in fact, our staff in Africa West area. Finally found out. And they went, "You did what?"
Really?
After about a year and a half, you did what? Did you really play in the NFL?
You played for the Oilers?
Did you play, did you play professional football? I said, yeah. And he goes, "Why didn't you tell us?" And I said, I just didn't.
They come up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were just all about lifting people and helping people in other ways.
We were talking about
Interesting.
when you first came and sat in here with us about we're all over the world with this show.
Yeah, this is
right.
great.
Like five continents, right?
I just cannot believe you're saying people visiting from all these different areas.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
it's so fun. Les Namanga is in from New Mexico, one of the most famous Native American artists in the world.
No kidding.
And he joins us, and
Yeah,
he's
it's great.
keeping that culture alive, Native American art,
Right.
which is really cool. Very gifted. He's in here. I just saw Les on the line with us. People from all over, from all kinds of cultures. Really, really cool.
But let me say that. Let me say this. That's BYU. I mean, that's what we represent. That's why every one of those players are playing right now. That's why every one of them need to know they are at BYU because we are spanning the world. It's not just Utah. It's just not the western part of the United States. We're spanning the world. And so when you come here and you play, you are literally representing the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints around the world. And that was one of the keys to Lavelle's success.
Yeah.
He always taught us, you're not just a football player.
Right.
You are proclaiming what you know by what you play and how you play. And, how cool is that?
It's cool.
And
It gives you a purpose. It gives you an absolute purpose to play.
Yeah, and as this progressed, there was this national reach, but really, and you've been around the world, it's a global reach for these athletes. We just had Olympians that were competing in, and they're saying, BYU's Kenneth Rooks, like that name BYU is global now.
Yeah, I mean, it used to not be.
Right.
You played when it wasn't,
No.
and I played when it wasn't, but now it is, and it's total respect. I'm looking up here at Brigham Young. You got Brigham Young.
He's on the.
What is he thinking on the other side when he's thinking about his football team, his basketball team, his track team, his soccer team? It's remarkable what has happened with Brigham Young University. It's remarkable with the respect we have around the world. It's remarkable the way people look at us. And we're not going to do anything different than what we do, and that's how we live, right? Mm-hmm. But, I mean, just look at the way we travel. You guys have been traveling. I haven't, but every time I see a little broadcast, they say there are more BYU fans here than there are SMU fans.
They had 4,000 at the Wyoming game.
We're expecting when
Saturday
BYU
night.
plays at Arizona State later this season, we expect a takeover in Tempe.
Yeah.
Like the BYU fans will take over that stadium, which will be awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, the last time Kansas State was here, it was September 10th, 1977. It was a night game at the stadium. There were 35,000 fans there. Every seat full. You threw for 318 and 2 touchdowns. You win 39-0 in the season opener. That was a long time ago, but tell me you remember that night.
Well, there were so many expectations going into that season because we were coming off such an amazing 1976.
Right.
And that was my All-American year. Mm-hmm. And so coming back, starting out with Kansas State in Big 12, although they weren't the
Big
top
Eight
of the,
then, right?
excuse me, the Big 8 at the time. They weren't at the top of the league, but they were still in that league. And so you have the place was packed. Everybody was so excited to go play. And then we just came out and started flinging it around and just having the greatest time. And there's nothing they could do about it. And it was just.
Did you have
was
this
fun.
feeling like they just can't stop us?
They just can't stop us. In fact, I think I only played like 3/4 of the game or something like that.
No, in fact, I don't even know if you played in the second half. Mark had a touchdown pass. He was like 8 of 9 for 101. Mark Wilson was your backup. That's crazy.
Mark Wilson got more plays in those first 3 games of 1977 because we went to Utah State.
You killed them. It was like
In New
65
Mexico,
to 6.
Yeah, New Mexico. And I think I only played in the first half of any of those games.
How long does it take in a game like that? How many drives, how many plays for you to just go, this team cannot stop us?
Well, when we went out on the field, because that was Doug.
Sure.
That was Doug saying, this team cannot stay with us. They cannot stop us. The only people that can stop us is us. There's not a team that can slow us down. We lost in the bowl game to Oklahoma State because they overpowered us. They just
Terry Miller.
Physically.
They were just Philip Dokes and John Corker. I had John Corker in Houston. Those guys were just bigger than
Monsters.
we were, and they were stronger and they were faster, and we just could not hold them down. And but that was Doug. He had us so prepared for every game that we went out on the field, and when we got going, it's just like I would come up to the line of scrimmage sometimes with a smile on my face, going, everybody in the stands does not know that this is going to be a touchdown pass, but this is going to be a touchdown pass because there's no way they can stop this. It is one of the greatest feelings in the world.
That's awesome.
There were times, and I'm sure you had this too, where if we were in a tight ball game for some reason, and the other team, I remember this in '81 when Jim was a senior. And I can't remember who it was, but they went down and scored, and I looked up at the scoreboard. I was standing next to Robbie, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what a bunch of idiots. They scored too fast. Like, we'll win for sure now. Like, I felt like if we get the ball back with more than 3 minutes, there's no way this team can stop Jim from going down the field and scoring. And you had that a lot when you were playing.
Yeah, so that was Doug.
Yeah.
And Lavelle was smart enough to say it was Doug.
Yeah.
That was him. That was the genius of Lavelle Edwards. When Doug Scoville came to BYU, there were only 4 guys that could call the plays. Norm was working on it. But Doug Scoville, me, Mark Wilson, Jim.
He's just a youngin'.
Yeah, he was just over there punting, and we didn't know if he had shoes on. He didn't know if he had socks on. But there were only, and maybe Brian Billick kind of learned it because he was a student of the game. But there were not very many people that could call the plays. And so that's how we started this whole thing. And it just blossomed into what it is today. Yeah. I mean, one of the powerhouses in the entire country.
Mesa, Arizona on the live stream. Perth, Australia in with us.
Perth.
There you go.
Yes,
welcome,
all my
Perth.
friends in Perth.
Just drop the kids off at
Happy
school in
Tuesday.
Perth. Go Cougs. Excited to hear from a legend tonight.
Perth to Perth, the end of the earth. That's so far away, but those people are so amazing in Perth, Australia.
That's cool.
I love it. A lot of friends.
Fast forward 47 very short years to Saturday night. What are the keys for BYU to beat Kansas State this time around?
Well, let's start offensively, okay? Okay, offensively, Jake has got to be settled down. This is a new level. This will be a new level of intensity.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They're coming. They're coming after him.
Right.
And he has just got to be confident in the pocket and be able to move and be able to just trust himself as the quarterback of this team. I think if there's one thing right now for Jake, it is just to trust himself and trust the system and trust the calls and just play within himself. He cannot do what he did against SMU.
Right.
He can't give the ball away because against great teams like this, you just can't lose a ball on a fumble.
Give him a short field and
you can't give him.
Can't do it.
No short fields. Can't have any turnovers. He can't. He's got to be able to control himself. I don't know how much we're going to be able to run the ball. I don't know where our running back situation with the running back situation is.
1 and 2 may both
right
still
now.
be out this week, so that hurts.
Okay, that hurts you. You got to be really good on special teams. Got to be really good on special teams. And then I am so impressed with Jay Hill and the way he's got his defensive players playing, all the coaches and everything like that. If you really watch this carefully, I think for everybody to understand and know this is gap control. This is very rarely do you see people or the opposing team get outside BYU right now. He's got these guys conditioned so well to bring everything back inside, and they've got a lot of talent on that defensive side right now.
So hold the edge?
So it is hold the edge defensively. Nice. You got to hold it. You always have to keep an eye on the quarterback, Blaine. Especially a running quarterback like that, you have to keep a spy on him. You have to know where he's going to be. And the nice thing about BYU right now, I don't know if we've ever had better defensive backs. That's not to take away from, as a collective group.
Yeah, there's been some good ones and twos.
We've had some amazing defensive backs here.
Gennaro Guilford said before the season in an interview we did with him that he said, I promise you this is the best group of DBs we've ever had. He goes, that might sound crazy, but we are deeper than we've ever been in program history.
They got like 10 guys that can play back there.
Well, and they can play man coverage.
Yeah.
And so you're not going to win every battle man coverage, but what BYU I think needs to do, and I don't even know their game plan, but I think they need to put a lot of pressure on this quarterback, keep a spy on him, and then make him throw perfect passes. That's a hard thing.
Make him throw, but from the pocket, right?
Yeah.
I love it.
Just make him throw perfect passes, and if he does it, then you tip your hat to him and say, nice throw. Okay, we're coming at you again. Nice throw. We're coming at you again. You threw that in a little bit high and outside, and we just picked it off.
Yeah.
Because
Those
you just have to put pressure on him. He's got to feel the pressure. And you know what? He's got to feel the pressure of the crowd. He's got to feel the pressure of playing at Lavelle Edwards Stadium at night with all of those people. Just feel the pressure. Pressure on the field, pressure in the stands, pressure everywhere. And I think BYU's got a chance to go 4-0.
Yeah, I like it. As I've watched him play last year and now this year, I feel like he's better when he's out ad-libbing, not when you make him stand in there and deliver strikes.
The K-State quarterback?
Yeah.
I haven't seen him play, but they say he's quite an athlete.
You know, you said something which really rings home about this defense. We watched last year, and we'd go back and watch the film, and we'd go, oh, gosh, they're not – yeah, that team just ran the ball on them. They're not getting manhandled up front. These guys are not in the right gaps. That guy's not here. And it took Jay Hill, I think, all of last season to feel the way you felt about Doug Scoville in the offense. Guys, we are talented. If everybody will do their job, trust the system and trust each other, we can be lights out. Yeah. And I feel like this season they started with, let's trust this defense. Let's trust each other. And now we're watching film after games. We're going, look at everybody's in their gaps. Everybody's gap sound. Everybody's doing their job. Everybody's trusting each other. And now they're very good.
And if they force a runner back inside, you've got the speed to close the gap.
So they're feeling a little bit like that Doug Scoville offense where they're like, we're good and we know we're good. And if we do what we're supposed to do, we can shut teams down. And that's fun.
Logandale, Nevada on the live stream tonight. Good to have you with us, joining everybody else. 5 Questions is presented by Strategy Square, delivering connection, clarity, and confidence in business and marketing strategies. Owned and operated by a BYU alum who's helping wise guys conquer the world. And as I say that, Jacksonville, Florida hops in on the stream as well to listen to Gifford Nielsen. All of this great interview, which has been awesome, has led up to these next 5 questions.
And I like what Rick Banovich's comment says. What a gift we're enjoying right now. Football expertise and gospel principles all at the same time.
It's the perfect blend.
Right here, I felt like I could, on this podcast, kind of throw.
That's what we do.
Yeah, you did. That's how we roll.
This is what we started this for. We wanted a forum where we could do just that if we wanted to. So.
Thank you for allowing me to do it.
Yeah, well, here we go. You ready?
Yeah.
I think he's ready.
What do you got?
We're giving you 5 questions.
You got me 5 questions?
Yeah, but they're quick. And you just have the first thing that comes to your mind. So this is how.
Is it a one-word answer here?
No,
Oh, you can
elaborate.
Hey, Las Vegas is in just in time for 5 questions. Here we go.
There we go, coming in from Vegas. So here we go. Your favorite sports movie?
Oh, gosh. Gosh, Rudy? I don't know.
Rudy, that's a good one.
I love Rudy.
Okay.
I cry every time.
I just think that's inspiration. Isn't Rudy now a member of the church?
Yeah.
Yeah, he is.
Mean, the guy who played Rudy?
Yeah.
So it's got to be Rudy. Yeah.
I did a fireside with him a couple of years ago at the U of all places. None of that makes sense.
Hey, listen, we love the University of Utah.
I know.
Rudy is. Dave and I were doing a show from the sideline at Notre Dame when BYU was playing there. And the real Rudy comes in through the end zone, and the fans go, Rudy. Dave and I were getting goosebumps. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So, he's a member of the church.
I haven't watched a whole lot of movies, but Hoosiers was pretty good.
Hoosiers is my number one.
Okay.
That's his. Marie Osmond says Hoosiers. When she came on, she said Hoosiers. Like, that's because you married Steve, Craig. But, okay, your favorite singer or band? Nobody said the Motabs, but
yeah, I was going to say that. But you did. But they're not they're
not a band or a singer.
But I'm going to say the Mormon Tabernacle Choir.
The Motabs.
No, I'm going to say the Tabernacle Choir at Temple Square.
Okay, there you go.
We're going to run these by Steve Young. He's going to be with us in 2 weeks.
Yeah,
so here's what Gift told us.
Gift said this. Are you buying it? Are you buying it?
Yes. Actually, they are my favorites because if I ever just need a little bit of downtime, I've got a couple of favorites that I just put on there just to bring everything down.
Hey, as you say that, South Georgia is in the house tonight.
They go Rudy from South Georgia. There you go. Naperville, Illinois in the house too. Yeah. So, okay, your favorite breakfast cereal?
Raisin Bran.
Do you put extra sugar on it, or do you just go with the sugar that they already put on it?
Just the sugar they've already got on it.
Which is minimal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I love Raisin Bran, but I have to have an extra teaspoon of sugar. So, Your favorite BYU moment, and it doesn't have to be on the football field. Anything that happened to you at BYU, that can be your favorite moment.
Gosh, so many of them, man. Not too many people know about this one, but this was against Arizona.
Oh, okay, yeah.
This was against Arizona. We knew we had in 1976. We knew we had to beat Arizona and Arizona State, and both of those games were classic. But we played against Arizona, and we played down in Tucson. And right before the game, there was just a severe rainstorm. So we played the whole game with a medicine ball. It was crazy.
Wet,
we had
heavy.
to win. And we had the ball on about the 43-yard line with 5 seconds left to go in the game. And not too many people know this play. And I can remember we called timeout. We had to score a touchdown. And Doug, I went over to the sidelines, and Doug said, okay, we're going to win this game. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, we have to throw a touchdown pass.
Right now.
Right.
And he goes, I want you to do this. I want you to drop back, and then I want you to come up in the pocket to the left, and then I want you to sprint to the right. And I went, how do you know that's going to work? He said, this is what I want you to do. And he said, then Chronister, Mike, you go down and cut this way, you cut this way. And then Gorgeous George, he called him Gorgeous George because he had the little locks coming in. He said, George, you go down, take your time, and then just run to the post. And once you get to the sideline, you square your shoulders and you turn around and you throw that medicine ball as hard as you can to the end zone.
And George will be wide open?
No, George is going to be there. And so I dropped back. This was our Hail Mary. Nobody talks about this. They talk about the Clay Brown, Jim
Right.
McMahon
That's because it
play.
was on TV.
Yeah. So I dropped back. I went to the left just a little bit, just exactly what Doug said. And then I rolled to the right, and I threw the medicine ball, that football, and I think I threw it about 5 yards out of bounds. And somehow the ball just curved and hit George Harrison.
Was the wind blowing? Oh, this is divine intervention.
You threw a curveball.
This is divine intervention.
I think it went out. I don't know exactly, but it landed right in the hands of George Harris
for the touchdown
to win it.
Wow.
And they put.
We never talk about that.
No.
You got to go back.
We got to go find that video footage.
That play, because that was the big play to get the season
when
going.
we're doing the Arizona pregame, we got to find that play.
Yeah. Find that play.
That'll
Find
put
that
Jim
play.
McMahon in his place. He
Jim,
wasn't the first Hail Mary.
No, heavens no. That was not the first Hail Mary. We did so many other things before that.
That's great.
But we had to beat Arizona down there, and then came back. And
So this is 76, Arizona and Tucson. We got to get that footage.
And one of the great games of all time, one of the great game plans of all time was against Arizona State when they came to BYU a couple of weeks later. And we beat Arizona State.
Yeah,
That's
and they
awesome.
were the powerhouses in the league then.
They were the powerhouse.
That was the changing of the guard. Then they were like, man, we can't compete. We got to go to the Pac-12.
Yep.
So
that was a special moment. And then, can I just do one more?
Yes, of
Being
course.
put into the
Chad can just hang on for a second.
just being put into the put into the College Football Hall of Fame, representing BYU and what we were trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
That was a special moment.
Yeah. Well, here's the fifth and most important question of all. And I don't know if Wendy's listening or not, but what's the best advice that your wife Wendy's ever given you?
She's always talking about trust. Just trust yourself.
Yeah.
Just trust yourself, because you can do this. She always said that. You know what it's like. You go up and down and all around in athletics, basketball and football in my particular situation. But she just trusted me, and she said, I'm always here for you. So we've had many talks about many different things, especially when we got to the pro level. That's a whole new ball game. Whole new ball game.
That's great.
Don't we all need somebody in our life that when we're doubting, they say, you just got to trust yourself because you can do this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
That's Wendy. I can see that.
Yep, she's amazing.
That's great. Hey, it's Hall of Fame night here on the Wise Guys. We have Hall of Famer Gifford Nielsen. We also have Hall of Famer Chad Lewis, who is joining us via Zoom from California. Let's bring Chad in here for a sec.
How would you like to be able to throw to Chad Lewis?
The biggest catch radius.
Gosh. And all you have to do is just get it in the general direction, and then after he catches it, he gets about 25, 30 extra yards.
Yeah, I had some times when I got to throw to Chad when he was with the Eagles in off season to throw a few balls, and let me tell you, it's awesome.
Chad, what do you think of all this?
Hey, you can have Giff on as long as you want. I mean, he's a beast.
I threw so many touchdown passes to Chad Lewis in my dreams. He was always open.
He had a guy named Steve Sarkisian who threw him a lot of touchdown passes. But what if you were
Steve,
Giff's tight end, Chad? What would that have been like?
Gosh.
Just throw it, man. I love it. I love my quarterbacks.
Is there any BYU receiver ever, Chad, that had a bigger catch radius than you? Or are you the all-time biggest catch radius of all times?
Great question. I think Ben Cahoon might have had a bigger one because he could jump like a cat. So he made his 6-foot, catch radius go to like 12 feet.
Yeah. I can tell you that's the wrong answer.
That's right. Chad is
Chad Lewis. Chad Lewis. I don't know. It's Chad
Giff,
Lewis.
you made the jump pass a thing.
My goodness.
And Chad made the jumping over defenders a thing.
I can tell you this. When Doug Scoville came in and said, we're going to run a jump pass, I'm going, what are you thinking? I'm going to get killed. But Chad Lewis, he was always jumping over people. And he had the ability to do that. He could leap tall buildings at a single bound. This guy, he wore a Superman T-shirt under that uniform.
Chad, let's make this transition as we before we say goodnight to Giff. It's 100 years of BYU football, and your team's going to be honored Saturday as part of the game from the '96 squad. But how important were the guys who played football in the mid-'70s to make your night and where BYU is today possible?
We talked about them all the time. We watched their tapes. We saw Giff's jump pass. We throw on the film, whether it was Coach Chow or Lance Reynolds, we put on the tape, and we just watched the old stuff, and it just inspired us. We definitely felt, this is something said all the time, that we stood on the shoulders of giants. We felt like that. It was real for us. We had national champions before us, and all that mattered. When we got there, we just felt like we were going to win every game. That was the feeling. That was BYU football.
Well said.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and they just keep it going because here's what I see. I was there at the start, the very beginning. And now look at the reputation BYU has around the country. We're in every conversation. It's because of players like Chad Lewis and Vi Sekahima now that's serving down in South Africa, and all the quarterbacks, and all the running backs, and you just look at it and you just can't point to one thing other than just total commitment and caring for each other. And so guys like Chad, it's just, this is BYU football right here.
Yeah.
He's looking right at you, Chad.
You do what Chad did on the field. You do what he did in pro football, and now you're doing what he's doing right now to lift BYU athletics.
Hey, that's exactly what you did.
He's doing that guy. I like that guy. Look at that smile.
I've been in Ghana, Africa with Giff, watching him do his thing with people, and it's really cool. So I agree. Like, to see people play football at BYU, then go on and make an impact in their school, community, church, whatever. I love that. I think that's BYU, that's Lavelle Edwards, that's kind of the package. It's a really cool package.
And now Kalani.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, it's great to have you with us. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks so much.
You guys really are wise guys.
Yeah,
we're having so much fun because we've never had a forum like this, and it's growing and it's reaching around the world, and we love that we can just have these cats. You know how you worked in TV for all these years. Everything's like a 4-minute soundbite. And now we get to sit down and talk about real things with people for 45 minutes, and it's awesome, and we love it.
Chad, I wish you were here in this very impressive basement because it's like something
He's been here. He's been here.
Oh, yes, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
He's been here.
So,
hey, thanks, Giff.
Thanks so much, Giff.
We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks,
You're welcome
brother.
back here anytime. You know that. We
Let's
look
go out
forward
and
to
hit
it.
it before the weather gets bad.
Okay.
Now that you're home.
Gifford Nielsen, Hall of Fame quarterback at BYU. And now we turn our sights to the 100 season and the festivities this weekend for the 14-1 Cotton Bowl team. Chad Lewis, our next guest, he was a tight end on that squad, inducted into the BYU Hall of Fame in 2007, the current Associate Athletic Director over Development. Pleasure to formally welcome you back to the Wise Guys. Chad, how much fun is it going to be this weekend to be back with the boys from '96?
I can't wait to see everybody. I know Sarkisian can't be here. He's got a game, but I know that Shea Muirbrook's going to be here. He's one of our great leaders on the field, off the field. He's flying in for this game. It'll be cool to see. All of us will be the wide lighters. And just anytime we're together, it's a fun reunion. We love each other. We had great camaraderie then, and we still have great camaraderie now. So it'll be sweet.
What was it about that '96 team, Chad, that made it different from the others?
Oh, man, we were talented at every spot. That was one thing. We had great competition in every practice, defense, offense, and we were all fighting to get on the field. The tight end spot, there was me and Atula Mealy, who we loved each other, and we were both fighting to get balls, and we had a blast doing it. Here's an example of that team. My daughter, Emily, was born at the end of September, and so we were in the Utah Valley Hospital. I think every single person on the team came over.
Oh, wow.
And that was kind of a reflection of that team. Like, we cared about each other, and it was really cool to have, feel that kind of support.
Was there a moment early in that season that led you to believe that this could be a special year? You knew it was going to be a long season because you got A&M to kick it off in August. You beat them 41-37. Was that the springboard, or was there another game where you thought, hey, I think we can go 14-1 here?
It was just before the A&M game. It was in the middle of the summer. We met with Lavelle, and we said, there was just a small group of us. We met him over above his office in the conference room, and we said, Lavelle, we want to be national champs this year. We feel like we have a team that can do it, and we're willing to give up or do whatever it takes to get there. And so everyone was putting on the table what they wanted to do. Some guys were saying what they would give up to make that happen. And then we also had a couple of requests from Lavelle. Steve said, Lavelle, we want to cover the ramp where we come out on the field. Can we do that? And he's like, yeah, I think we can get that done. Let's do it. And then Steve also said, and we want some smoke. We want to put some smoke. And he's like, yeah, I think we can get that done too. And it was such a cool adult conversation, because here he was full legend status at this time.
Right.
And he was talking to us like we were adults. He was talking to us like he loved us. And we knew he was going to go to bat for us, and he did. And it was just like, I want to just bottle that conversation with him, with that group of players, and just that feeling. That's what ripped us right into the season with a lot of confidence and momentum.
That 1996 year was a really interesting year. People are like, why did they play so many games? Well, that was the first year of the 16-team WAC, right? So 16 teams, which meant there was going to be a WAC championship game down in Las Vegas. That was a crazy barn burner. We just talked about it on our AFR show this last week.
Yep.
And you caught a touchdown pass, but then it was Ethan Potchman's field goal in overtime that won the game in Vegas. Then the fans stormed the field. What did you do once the fans started pouring out onto the field? What did you do?
Oh, we were going crazy, the whole team. And we were chanting Fiesta Bowl. That's where we wanted to go. It was part of the Alliance Bowl at that time.
Yeah.
Right.
And our record, our team, everything deserved a crack to be there. We were ranked 5th in the country. And that's what we were saying on the field. We were just going nuts. It was so sweet.
That was one of the great moments in all of Las Vegas sports. I mean, the Vegas has had a lot of things, but they hadn't had Sam Boyd Stadium like that in a championship setting, sold out, went to the wire, 2 top 20 teams, but so much riding on the line with your guys.
Oh, man. That game specifically was the ultimate of joy and pain, because before halftime, Tula blew out his knee. He was tackled very low by the Wyoming safety, and his knee was gone. We all knew it. We went into halftime, and none of us wanted to even come back out and play. It was so sad. It was such a bummer. He had such a great year. And he ended up playing 9 years in the NFL, but that moment with his dad in the locker room giving him a blessing, and then we didn't even want to come out at halftime. And you could tell when you watch the game, it was like, what happened in the third quarter? Where were you guys? Our hearts were still broken, and we rallied. We fought back. Like you said, Ethan Potchman kicked a game winner. Henry Bloomfield had just a monster tackle for loss in overtime, but that whole team competed. That was a sweet game.
I think about that tight end tandem and that injury to Atula, but there's been some pretty good tight end groups at BYU that could rival anybody in the country. Has there ever been a better tandem than you and Atula there? I mean, if you look at the NFL, combined, how many seasons in the NFL? Like, isn't it like, how many years were you there? Were you there
Both of us played 9
Yeah,
years.
so
18 years.
18 seasons combined, and both really good in the NFL. Has anybody in the country ever had a better tight end combo than that at the same time?
Good question. All I can say is I loved playing with him. I loved watching him in practice make unbelievable plays. I loved watching him in games. He was so big and so light on his feet, great hands. It was just, for us, I'm telling you, it was a joy to play tight end at BYU because we were playing after a long line of legendary tight ends. We knew how important it was to the offense, and we loved walking on the field playing tight end for BYU.
Former BYU tight end Chad Lewis on the Wise Guys, presented by Brady Plus and distributed by the Deseret News. Chad caught 111 passes for over 1,300 yards and 10 touchdowns at BYU. A huge piece of that 96 team that went 14-1. BYU beat Kansas State on New Year's Day on CBS in the Cotton Bowl, the only New Year's Day bowl game in program history. So we know the score and we've seen the highlights, but describe how it felt leaving the locker room and taking the field on that day. It wasn't the Fiesta Bowl where you wanted, but you were prime time on CBS against Kansas State on New Year's Day. What did that feel like to you guys?
And playing on New Year's Day meant everything to us. We knew it was Lavelle's first time playing on New Year's Day. We knew he deserved it. We wanted to win that game for him. We talked about it as a team. We had a great week of practice, and when it was time to play the game, we were fighting. And the game came down to the wire. Tim McTire made an unbelievable push out of Kevin Lockett, who caught the ball, would have been a game-winning touchdown. And in the air, he pushed Kevin out of the end zone. Next play, I think Omar Morgan picked it off to seal the deal. I think Shea Muirbrook had 4, 5, 6 sacks in that game. It was ridiculous. Steve Sarkisian was amazing. K.O. Kealalui had just the vintage game winner touchdown. James Dye had a touchdown. It was the whole team coming together. We not only beat Kansas State, but we beat the refs who tried as hard as they could in that game to beat it. And we were in a sea of absolute purple down there in the Cotton Bowl.
Oh, yeah.
It was a perfect environment. It was just sweet.
And you had your contribution, 5 passes, 79 yards in that game. So Dave asked you what it was like to come out onto that field. What about leaving the field with that victory in hand, knowing you were 14-1? We're going to be ranked no higher than 5th. What was that like?
Oh, man. As soon as that clock ticked 0, there was a group of missionaries down in the other end of the field from where we were. We sprinted down there in front of the missionaries and just had a moment as a whole team. But then we stayed on the field for a long time. We hugged. All the coaches were there. Itula was on the sidelines. Most of us had number 88 written on tape and slapped on our helmets because he had just hurt his knee the game before. And to realize that we just won a New Year's Day bowl game. I think Shea Muirbrook started cramping about right then, and for the next 45 minutes, he was laying on the ground. Once we got him into the locker room, he couldn't move. He was screaming in pain. We were like laughing, crying. It was so sweet. That was a good one.
It'll be quite the weekend to have the 96 team back. Also, former tight end Brian Billick's going to join you in the BYU Hall of Fame during induction ceremonies on Friday night. How about that? You and Billick sharing time in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, we went toe-to-toe a bunch of times in the NFL. Great coach. It's cool. You know, from the 74 team, the guys that got it all going with going to bowl games and winning championships, to have him come back and be recognized in Lavelle Edwards Stadium will be sweet.
Well, the big event this week, there's so much around this, but there is a game on Saturday night against Kansas State again this weekend. Isn't it great that we're honoring that 96 team that beat Kansas State in the bowl game, and now they come in and play? So we want your perspective on this game. What are your 3 keys to a victory for BYU in the Kansas State game this Saturday night?
The first thing already happened is Jay Hill did not die. He had a heart attack a couple weeks ago, but, man, I love that dude. I'm so thankful he came to BYU. I'm so grateful that he's healthy.
So key number 1 is Jay Hill's alive?
Dang straight it is. He's playing great defense. The defense is playing nice. You watch a game, and they're in the right places. The DBs are covering guys. Evan had a big pick this week. Jacob Robinson's had some picks. But the guys are playing great defense.
Yeah.
If you watch the gaps, the defensive line and linebackers are filling gaps in a really nice way. They're just playing with and together in a really good way. I thought Jake Retzlaff had a great game against Wyoming, where made some great throws, made some great runs, made some plays when he had to. I felt like as a team they took a big chunk step forward. I thought Keelan Marion taking a 101-yard kick return to start the second half was massive.
Yeah.
You know, we had James Dye in '96 that gave us great field position and such a boost on special teams. And that's what happened in that game with Wyoming. I know Kansas State will be a much better team at every position, but when you have people stepping up like that, especially on special teams, it just really motivates your guys, gives you great field position, and in that instance, points on the board in one play. That was sweet.
So I got here's your three keys then. Jay Hill's
alive.
Defense he's alive. Having Jay Hill alive is the key, but there's more to it because he said the way they're playing and their gap sound and they're playing as a team, that's because of Jay Hill. So that's one. Retzlaff's got to continue to make plays. That's two. He liked the way he played last week. And then special teams needs to contribute in a big way. Are those the three then? Do we've got them, Chad?
Yeah, I'm sticking with those three.
I like it.
Those are
I
good
like
three.
those three. Those are great.
Hey, let's finish up with this. Earlier in the week, as we were promoting you coming on the show, I tweeted out the clip of you defending the goalposts against the entire University of Utah football team. And we just had a question here on the live stream to ask you about that moment where the Utes are ready to tear down the goalposts, and like Superman out of nowhere, in flies
Chad
this guy
said
with his
no
helmet
way.
on in there to defend the goalposts. That says so much about you and your character, but what do you remember from that?
Oh, man, that was an intense time. My brother Mike had just finished playing at the U the year before. And here I was as a freshman. Utah beats us in what was then Cougar Stadium for the first time in a long time. Their players started to tear down the goalposts. And I was so mad. I remember just seeing it start to bounce, and I was like, that's it. I snapped my chin strap, and I ran down there. And I ran into the whole group of them. And that's when they turned around. They came off the goalposts. Then they started coming to me. And then a couple other teammates came, Brian Hughes, others came, and there was a melee down on the north end zone. One of our coaches got punched in the face. Claude Bassett, he was our linebackers coach. And so the next Monday, I had a big cherry on his face. He pulled me aside, and he said, I just want you to know, that was the greatest thing I've ever seen at BYU.
A lot of people say that.
I thought it was way too much to see their team members trying to tear down the goalposts.
Yeah.
And
You couldn't stand
I'm
for
grateful
that.
the way that thing turned out.
Yeah,
I'm more
not
upset
in our
the rest
house.
of the
That's
team
what he was
wasn't
saying.
behind you. They let you go in there all by yourself and
Yeah.
fight everybody off.
There was more that came down, so it turned into a good little melee.
Yeah.
And I'm glad for every single one of those guys that came and ran down. That was important.
Yeah. Hey, that's a great story. And,
Yeah, I love
the
it.
video clip's even better. Henry Marsh says, I don't think I've ever told Chad this, but me and my two young boys were with those missionaries at the Cotton Bowl, one of our favorite all-time memories, celebrating with the team after beating Kansas State. And your team gets honored this weekend in front of 62,000 fans. I hope you soak it all in, and you guys have earned it. It'll be fun. We wish you the best of all weekends.
And that was coming from the Henry Marsh.
Yeah.
The legend.
Thanks for saying that. That's really cool.
Hey, you're the best. Thanks for joining our show tonight. We'll see you at the stadium on Saturday.
Okay, see you guys. Thanks so
Chad.
much.
Great Chad Lewis, Hall of Fame night. Chad Lewis and
How about that?
Gifford Nielsen, and two interviews that I just thought were just so good.
Amazing. Michael Zimmerman says, hey, the best thing about you, Chad, and Chad's off, he may be listening, but you turned into a great father, husband, friend, and now your greatest title, Grandpa.
Yeah.
Thanks for all you do for And I know that Chad takes that title very seriously. He's a grandpa now.
During his time in the NFL, Lewis caught 116 passes for over 2,300 yards and 23 touchdowns. Started at BYU as a walk-on after his mission, and is in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and I have had the pleasure of being able to throw some balls to Chad in the offseason when he was just looking for anybody that could, with a decent arm, that could throw it. And how fun. You literally could just throw it anywhere in the zip code that Chad was in, and he was going to come up with it.
So good, so good. Friday night, by the way, at the Cougar Room, the Hall of Fame inductees include Brian Billick for football, Lacey Kramer-Blizzard from track and field, Jennifer Hampson, women's basketball and volleyball, two-sport All-American. Matt Payne for football. He was a good kicker, but, man, could he lay guys out.
Oh, yeah.
Dave Rose from men's basketball going into the BYU Hall of Fame. Tweeted him the other day. He's been on the show a couple of times, and what an honor for him. And Fudi Tavana from men's volleyball. That's an outstanding Hall of Fame class. They'll be inducted on Friday night, and then the next night is the big game with Kansas State Saturday night, and then the 96 team will be honored.
Great weekend. And that stadium is going to be rocking on Saturday night.
I know.
It's going to be so fun.
Our pregame show is going to be fun because the Rock, there's just such a buzz, and we get to be out in the middle of it at Cougar Canyon, and then we go inside. We show everybody exclusive warm-up footage and storylines, and Spencer will have who's in, who's out. It's great.
If you're there, come over by the set and join us. Join in with The Rock and be there. It's a great environment. If you're not there, then we hope you're all watching on BYU TV because we're going to have a fun time. We're going to take you right out onto the field with Spencer and all that.
Loved our guest tonight. Next week, Hans Olsen's going to join us.
Yeah,
that'll be a lot of fun. Let's roll down the Cougars in the NFL and our campus notes, and we'll ride out of here. We're riding out on a high today. On Sunday, Taysom Hill, by the way, went to the hospital to get checked out after getting hit in the chest at Dallas yesterday. They said it was precautionary, but both he and Jamal Williams host the Eagles on Sunday night. I think it's time for the Broncos to put Zach Wilson in the game.
Yeah, put him in.
They're 0-2. They play at the Bucs.
Did you see Bo Nix, though? Like, I do love the guy, right? And he's just a rookie.
Yeah, he's going to be great.
He should play Zach. But they said, hey, can you explain that interception you threw? And he goes, yeah. So he goes, just like this, all serious. He goes, yeah. So I dropped back, and then I threw to the other team. that was it. And I was like, oh, Bo, I love that.
Well said. Zane Anderson and the Packers are at the Titans. Blake Freeland and the Colts host the Bears.
Yeah. And then
Brady Christensen.
Oh, yeah, Brady Christensen. I'm like, where are those guys? Yeah, the Panthers and Brady Christensen at the Raiders, one of the best tackles ever at BYU. The Ravens and Kyle Van Noy, who's just having another great season.
Yeah, you know what? He fractured his orbital bone, and the next thing you know, he's back in there and wreaking havoc.
One of the toughest guys, at the Cowboys. One of the great pass rushers in the league, period.
You want a fun interview with Kyle Van Noy, go to wiseguys.com.
Yeah, he was
That's
great.
Good stuff.
Lions at the Cardinals with Kairos Tonga, member of the Cardinals now. And then the Niners, Fred Warner,
so good.
Every week he just has a spectacular play. He's the best defender in the league. They're playing at the Rams and Puka Nacua. Is Puka back?
I don't think he's back yet, but they're hoping to get him back. Maybe now that Cooper Kupp's banged up, maybe they'll speed
they
Puka.
need him. So
Chiefs with Kingsley Suamataia. He was playing the Bengals on CBS yesterday. Andy Reid. They'll be at Atlanta to take on Tyler Algier and the Falcons.
And then on Monday night, the Commanders, Michael Davis, the corner there at the Bengals, Ryan Rico, the record-setting punter.
Yeah. He's got a great NFL career ahead of him.
He sure does.
Campus notes, men's hoops, 50 days, by the way, until tip-off. 7-1 2025 prospect Xavion Staten, a four-star guy, announces his final four candidates, Michigan, UNLV, Stanford, and BYU.
How is BYU in the mix?
Just in the mix for all these guys.
On all of these guys. It's crazy. Merit madness. When you get a chance to see this team, you and I have seen them in practice, but they're fun to watch. I can tell you, the length, athleticism, shooting ability, this is going to be a fun team. Marriott Madness, October 3rd, 7 p.m. Mountain Time.
That's not televised, so that's the thing. You got to be there to see them, and then we'll be along later in October with the first exhibition game.
We've got that.
And show you the guys. Women's soccer now 3-3-2, but 1-0 in the Big 12. They beat Arizona State last week. Avery Frischneck got the goal. This week they're at TCU Thursday, 6 o'clock Mountain Time, ESPN+.
So this really rough preseason schedule prepared them for the Big 12, maybe.
Hope so.
Because they're young. They needed to figure out how to connect offensively. Let's see if they can go on a run now.
Yeah.
Women's volleyball is 4-3. They dropped a pair of spirited battles in San Diego, 3-2 to the Toreros and 3-2 against number 14 Oregon.
Classic battles.
Yeah, the fifth set was 17-15. So
this week is their final week of non-Big 12 games. Utah State at BYU Wednesday, BYU at Weber State Friday, Utah Valley at BYU Saturday. All the games available on ESPN Plus. And the poll came out late today. BYU's at 19 in the country.
Women's cross country, speaking of national rankings, ranked number 6. New poll will be out tomorrow. So Autumn Classic results. The first place, Jenna Hutchins, was the individual champion in the Autumn Classic. Next up, Joe, is it Piane?
I think so.
Yeah, the Joe Piane Notre Dame Invite, Friday, October 4th at Notre Dame in Indiana, South Bend.
Men's cross country, they're at number 2. Again, I don't know if they're going to go up to 1 or at least they won their Autumn Classic. Casey Klingler was the individual champ. Next up for them is the Nutcomb Invitational in Madison, Wisconsin on September 27th. By the way, check out Cougar Fan. For the latest headlines about BYU sports, visit cougarfan.com. Owned and operated by the Deseret News. And as you know, Wise Guys is distributed by the Deseret News and presented by Brady Plus. Now, why is there a football in front of you, Blaine? Let's talk about that for just a moment.
Let's talk about it. So
before we head down the home stretch. So that football is autographed by the current team, all of them. And Hinkley Rapati helped us get this ball together. We had 2 of them, and we had one up for auction at the Ephraim Hope Missions charity golf tournament to support educational opportunities for underprivileged kids in Uganda, and it raised $1,000. So we thought, you know what?
Let's do another one.
Let's do another one.
Yeah. So we're continuing that effort tonight. One of a kind item. It was actually a 2 of a kind, right?
Yeah.
But 1 of a kind now because the other one's already been sold and in the possession of somebody. If you bid on this, not only you get a beautiful piece of BYU history, but you'll make a difference in these kids' lives in Uganda. So. As we mentioned, that first ball auction for $1,000. By the way, $1,000 to this charity, that'll send 15 Ugandan children to school for a full term.
Yeah, and
That's pretty cool.
Think of this. It's a fundraiser. So here's how you do it. Submit your silent bid. You go to wiseguys.com, click on the Contact tab, and then send us your bid along with your contact info, phone number, email. It's tax deductible. 100% of the money goes to the kids in Uganda. We're going to run this for 3 weeks, so there'll be plenty of time for you to think about it. And then we'll end it at midnight on Sunday, October 6th, and we'll announce who won it.
We'll give you some pub for who got it.
On October 7th. But it's a chance for us to use some BYU memorabilia to raise money for a super cause for kids that none of us may ever see. But we know need help, and especially with getting educated. And the money raised from that football will help educate a whole bunch of them. We think it's awesome. And as you know, the Wise Guys and the Ephraim Hope Mission, we're all in as their title sponsor for their golf tournament. And so we want to put that ball out there. And you know what? That ball should be in your office. Or it should be in your family room. I have a 1984 ball signed by everybody on my desk. Can't give that away. Yeah. Can't auction that one off. Okay. All right. So it's this one. But anyway, we're putting it out there. We want you to enjoy it and join us, and we'll try to raise some money for some good stuff. Let's roll out with On This Day, September 16th. And we had so much stuff going on today. This is a big week in the Big 12. One of the big games is Utah at Oklahoma State for sure. We'll see that one. But BYU Kansas State, Saturday night primetime on ESPN is huge. And, of course, that's our focus here on the Wise Guys. Lots happened on this day on September 16th. Let's start with 1620 when the Mayflower departs on this day, Plymouth, England, headed for the New World. Seemed like that was a pretty big trip. Yeah. 1937, the former Washington Redskins play their first game in Washington. They beat the Giants 13-3, and of course later that nickname has been changed to the Commanders. How about 1950 on this day? The Cleveland Browns play their first NFL game. They beat Philadelphia 35-10. Lake Winnipesaukee, by the way, checking in late. Yeah. Better late than never. Good to have you with us. 1953, American League approves the move of the St. Louis Browns to Baltimore, and they become the Orioles. There you go. 1965, singer David Jones changes his stage name to David Bowie to avoid confusion with the Davy Jones of the Monkees. I did not know David Bowie's name was not David Bowie. Yeah. It was David Jones. And, of course,
But
Hey
Davy
Hey with the
Jones,
Monkeys.
Yeah, Hey Hey
Davy
with the
Jones.
Monkeys. Yeah, Davy Jones.
1984 on this day, Miami Vice debuts on NBC.
Mm-hmm.
That had a great influence on primetime shows moving forward.
Oh, man. And then,
Loved it.
then they even made a movie.
And when you hear the theme,
Yeah,
it just takes you right there.
So every time I see like an open for that, I want to go to the beach.
Yeah.
So, 1993, Frasier debuts on NBC.
That's a great show.
Had a great
1995, Braves pitcher Greg Maddux wins his Major League Baseball record 17th consecutive road game. 17 games on the road.
And you got to know Greg a little bit because
Yeah.
his Vegas ties, right? When you were
Normal
down-
guy, just an awesome pitcher.
You introduced me to him once when we were doing a Vegas basketball game. So yeah, what a good guy. 2002, the Dr. Phil show debuts on American television. I didn't know that Dr. Phil's been around since 2002.
I didn't either, but hey, the Coug dude said I had 8 different direct ancestors on the Mayflower.
What, the Coug dude did?
Yeah, that's what he just tweeted on the live stream. How about that?
I need to look that up. See
Well,
if I had any.
that's a big day. Did you just do Dr. Phil?
Yeah.
I was distracted by
I said I
Coug
couldn't
dude.
believe that he's been around since 2002. I didn't realize he's been around that long.
Dr. Phil. And then 2018, Patrick Mahomes sets an NFL record with 10 touchdown passes in the first 2 weeks of the season. And he has been a hot fantasy football commodity ever since.
So my first round pick, who's the most valuable player that you could ever draft, because I had the first pick this year.
Don't tell me it's
Christian McCaffrey.
Christian McCaffrey.
What in the world? Now I can't win because if you get the first pick, then you don't have another
I
pick
know.
till 25th.
Yeah. My son-in-law, Dan, had that same fate.
Oh, I just can't.
But if he comes back, you're in good shape.
Oh, my
All you got to
goodness.
just get to the playoffs.
I just got killed last week. So let's do birthdays. September 16th. 1930. But let's first remember that it was Brenda's birthday. A moment of silence. September 14th was Brenda's birthday.
Happy birthday.
So happy birthday to Brenda. September 16th, 1934. Elgin Baylor, 11-time NBA All-Star.
1958, Oral Hershiser, pitcher for the Dodgers.
That's right. 1963, Richard Marks. He just performed at the Sarah Shalom.
Yeah, and he was awesome.
He was really good.
He was great.
Yeah.
1992, Nick Jonas, who just headlined Stadium of Fire on July 4th.
And I did not know the Jonas Brothers stuff, but now I know.
Yeah, they were great.
Because I went to the year 3000. Not much has changed, but they live underwater. Their songs are great.
All my kids knew all their songs, and I just tried to play catch up.
Well, and then, but that song goes, but your great granddaughter, she's doing fine.
She's doing fine.
That's the lyrics to that song. 1993, Bryson DeChambeau, the great golfer. It's his birthday, September 16th, 1993.
Here's a notable death on September 16th, 1736. Daniel Gabriel Fahrenheit.
How do you find this
inventor of the thermometer. I go to On This Day, Google. He invented the thermometer.
Yeah, and
we've been using it ever since.
Yeah, I look at the temperature every day. Thanks to Daniel Gabriel.
By the way, the temperature at the game on Saturday night is going to be awesome. Bring a sweatshirt. We're going to be down in the 50s.
Yeah, the day gets into the mid 70s, which is a perfect fall day, but this is a night game, so
it's going to be sweet.
Oh, it'll be warm in that stadium, though.
Our Wise Guys inspirational quote of the week is from Elgin Baylor.
Elgin Baylor says, if you look up the definition of greatness in the dictionary, it will say Michael Jordan.
How about that? For a guy as good as he was, he still recognized that Michael Jordan was just all that much better. Thanks to our College Football Hall of Fame quarterback Gifford Nielsen and our BYU Hall of Fame tight end Chad Lewis. They were awesome. We encourage you to go back and watch these interviews again, and also we'll have clips in the Deseret News this week. Both were just spectacular.
They were amazing.
Just love it.
I loved it. And then next week we're going to have fun. Hans Olsen's going to come in and talk to us. And he's always – Hans has an opinion, and he'll let us know it. He's got a great football mind. We're excited to have Hans in.
He's the analyst with Greg Wrubell on BYU Radio for the games. You can find my book, C is for Cougar, at DeseretBook.com. There's a legend behind every letter. It's like $14, and you can teach your kids the alphabet the BYU
that
way.
That book is also on my desk right by my 84 football. So there you go.
I didn't sign the football. I did sign the book.
Yes, you did sign the book. I signed the football. I signed my own
You
football.
signed your own football?
Well, it was one of the ones that we all signed, and then they gave one to us all. So
look for our Wise Guys podcast tomorrow wherever you get your podcasts. And again, our live streams have been hopping tonight, which we love. But please go to our YouTube page, Wise Guys on YouTube, and just click the subscribe button. It's free. It just helps us grow the show.
Yeah, and remember, Wise Guys, presented by our good friends at Brady Plus and distributed by the Deseret News.
You know what that says? That says we've got, Garth Brooks had friends in low places. We've got friends in high places.
Thank goodness for Brady Plus, and we're so grateful to have Deseret News on as our distribution partner, and we're going places.
See you on After Further Review tomorrow night at 7 Eastern on BYU's on the TV app and ESPN Plus, and then we'll both see you on game day.
Yep.
Again, you got a lot of us this week.
Yeah,
we'll
this
see you
week.
Saturday night, and then next week on Wise Guys.
See you next week.
Let's do it. See ya.